Are you searching for a deeper understanding of your faith?
Inspiring Philosophy is your go-to resource for exploring the rich tapestry of Christian thought.
From biblical archaeology to philosophy of mind, we dive into the topics that matter.
Our content bridges faith and understanding, offering insights into God's existence and the reliability of the New Testament.
Join a community where faith meets reason and discover the answers you've been seeking.
Inspiring Philosophy, where faith meets understanding.
I'm sorry, Master, but I must go all out. Just this once. I don't like you, Muhammad. Dawa boys, you've left me no choice. Bible's been corrupted, that should go to line. But you claim the same book, prophesize your sign, twisting every scripture, faking all the quotes, hiding all the facts, trying to keep your boat afloat. Without lies, Islam dies. Perfect preservation, yeah, that myth got wrecked. Worldly Quran don't even match the text. Used to flex science, now you backing away, cause camel embryo facts don't hit the same today. Got the Islamic dilemma, you can't solve that. Every answer you give makes the problem snap back. Say the Bible's corrupt, but your own book cries. Bibles are Allah's words, they can't be revised. If Allah's words can't change, then your claims are fraud. You just argued yourself against the word of your God. Injil's secret book, that's your mystery prize. But the Quran said Christians should judge by it. Lies, then your crew pull muted like it's just a game. Ruined the life and trashed a man's name. All that dawah talk, but when truth appears, you vanish from the chat like it hurt your ears. Without lies, Islam dies. Can't hide truth, can't spin those lies. Without lies, Islam dies. Dawah cries when the facts arise. Without lies, Islam dies. Can't hide truth, can't spin those lies. Without lies, Islam dies. Dawah cries when the facts arise. We follow Jesus better, sure in your dream. While cutting out his claims like you're cropping a meme. Crown off his head, toss his cross in the bin. The smile for the camera like you're still his kin. Jesus was a Muslim, cute little twist. Redefine the word so the facts don't exist. If labels could change what the records prove, if Pharaoh was a Yahweh fan and Judas stayed true, Muhammad in the Song of Solomon, boy, you made your prophet a fruit. Snuggled up with Solomon and came the man of Ozu. Without lies, Islam dies. Can't hide truth, can't spin those lies. Without lies, Islam dies. Dawah cries when the facts arise. You preach perfect text, but the proof ain't there. Half's wash, even your readers don't care. Call the Bible corrupt, but still quote it loud. Trying to find Muhammad just to please your crowd. Song of Solomon, yeah, that's a flesh effect. You just wrote your prophet in the Solomon's bed. Then the man of Al-Zu came riding through all night long, and you say that's true. Jesus was a Muslim, the word plays dead. By that logic, Pharaoh bowed his head. You twist, you spin, but you can't disguise that every dawah claim is built on lies. Without lies, without lies, without lies, without
You muted, Mike.
Hold on, you're on the wrong side.
There you
that's
go.
Better. Fixed it. Okay, so I'm finally back home. Been in California for a week. That's been awful. Who the heck lives there? Oh my God.
I've never been happy in California.
It's crowded, it's expensive, and everyone's mean. Like, we couldn't find parking anywhere for just normal things. Like, oh, we need to stop at get some food for dinner. Oh, look, no parking here. Let's go 8 blocks away to find a parking spot. I hope no one robs our rental car while we're over there. Never moving. I don't know how any of you live there. We're past. Hey, we need to fill up for gas. Oh, look, it's only $8,000. This is awful.
Yeah, and I know the part that you were in this week too.
Yeah, I was living out in LA. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, you had to go through the ghetto over there too, didn't you?
Yeah, it's awful. No, not happy at all. Not happy at all being there. But I'm back in happy Arizona where people are nice. So yeah, good to be here. God Logic is here. Well. Indeed, well. Now what? Now what do we do? He says, well, now what? Anyway, so we're welcoming Muslims to call in and to debate us on Islam, show us Islam is true. We got our first guest here, so we're going to bring him up. Hey, Zoro, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Good. Are you a Muslim?
Yeah.
Awesome. So welcome to the channel. We're talking about Islam and why you think it's true. Do you want to tell us why you think Islam is true?
No, I wanted to tell you about an incredible Christian miracle story.
A credible Christian miracle. Is that what you just said?
An incredible Christian miracle story.
Okay, well, we're talking about, is that somehow related to why Islam is true?
Well, no, I wanted to, like, I've been trying to reach you about this on Twitter.
Okay. So again, so is this an incredible miracle story that shows that Christianity is true?
Well, I don't know, maybe.
So, but you're a Muslim though, right?
Yeah, so like, can you, I'll post a link in the chat. Can you like show it to your audience?
I don't know. That depends on the link.
Can you tell us what your prerogative here is? Because this is a call-in stream for Muslims to come in and prove Islam is true.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you understand why we're skeptical of what your intentions are if you're coming in here.
Okay,
And
so
the thing that
about
you
the
say is
story
Christian
about
miracle
how they
story.
rode him all night long?
What's that?
You know about the story about how they rode him all night long?
Yeah, Muhammad. Yeah, we know about that.
Yeah, so the original story, do you know who it's actually about?
Muhammad.
Oh, no. It's about Saint Anthony.
Listen, are you going to show us why Islam is true, or are you just here to troll?
I'm not trying to troll. I'm trying to show you the original story.
I want to know why you think Islam is true as a Muslim. If you're not going to engage in the topic, I'm going to kick you.
Just show your audience the story.
All right, bye. When you're ready to actually have a conversation about the topic, you can come back in. Until then, we will wait. We'll talk to actual Muslims as to why they think Islam is true. Zoro, you obviously don't think Islam is true. If anybody comes to me and goes, can you tell me why Christianity is true? I get excited. I can't wait. I'm not going to troll them because I'm like, this is my golden opportunity to show them why this is the truth and hopefully get them saved. You, sir, as a typical Muslim, don't care about other people. You only care about yourself, and that's why you're here to troll. And you don't have any evidence Islam is true. Obviously, that's why you're trolling. So yeah,
We're off
not
to
a serious person.
already.
Off to a good start. Yeah, there's guys. Just remember, an honest Muslim is an ex-Muslim. That's how that works. So let me kick him.
Our call-in stream last week was really fun because there was no drama except for Saeed when he came in with his 3 smoke detectors. And
yes, the new rule, Saeed, if you're watching or anyone watching, okay, if you call in and your smoke detectors are not up to date, we're not talking to you because I can't handle that beep in the back. All right, I can't. It's going to drive me absolutely insane. So if you call in, I'm hearing beep, beep, you're probably going to get kicked. If I hear 2 of them, like if there's 2 smoke detectors, you're definitely getting kicked. If I have 3 like Saeed, that's outright, gone. We're gone. We're not doing that at all. Not even a chance. So
I'm putting this banner up because we don't have anybody yet. So maybe this will.
So yeah. So when any Muslims want to call in and not troll and actually have a conversation with us, we're more than welcome to bring them in. So go ahead and call in, and we'll have you guys are welcome to come show us why Islam is true, and we will hear you out. Let's do some super chats here. Fun little thought experiment. If the Trinity wasn't true in the classical sense, what's the next best defensible position?
If by classical you mean like partialism can't be part of it, I would go with partialism.
I guess so. I have problems with that. I think there's theological problems with just taking any position that's not Trinitarian.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, I think there's philosophical problems with partialism. Like, and I don't think anybody who actually claims to be a partialist really is in like the actual meaning of it. Because you don't really, when you say like, you know, like the Father, Son, and Spirit are each a third of God, what does that mean? Like, you know, how could a conscious agent be a part of God? Like that doesn't, I don't think that logically follows. So yeah, I see problems no matter how we're looking at this. So yeah, I don't, you know, Trinitarianism is the only really sound position to hold to when it comes to all these issues. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for sure. So thank you, C. Bogsy, for becoming a channel member. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Do you guys think the Kalam cosmological argument is sound? And did the universe really begin to exist? Sorry for being off topic. I'm having a hard time with this. So what are your thoughts, Than?
Man, I think it is sound. I lean on saying yes. But I also just don't really care too much about like causal finitism at the end of the day. Because I think contingency like let's just say causal arguments like the Kalam are not sound. That doesn't get you out of the problem of contingency arguments. Like that's going to be the thing that really matters at the end of the day, because you can have an eternal universe, for instance, and still need a necessary being that explains the eternal universe. So yeah, if you're having a hard time about it, join our Discord server. There's tons of people in there that are knowledgeable too, and sometimes I jump in the voice channels and talk about this kind of stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those wondering why I was in California, I was out there for an interview, or I was out there for Ruslan's Bless God Summit, which is pretty awesome. And then I had an interview north, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it was publicly yet. Can I say what it is, Than, or am I supposed to wait?
No, I think you can say. Well, I mean, you're the one that signed the NDA, probably.
All right, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for it to be. You'll see. Something big. I was on a pretty big channel. Should be fun. Had a conversation with 3 other people: atheist, Jew, Muslim, and myself as a Christian. But it was a good conversation. It was kind of funny though, because beforehand they kept we're having a hard time getting a Muslim on. I'm like, yeah. Preach to the choir. We know they're terrified to talk to us. We know. So they eventually got one. Not going to make the typical Salafi Muslim crowd happy who they got. It was probably the most liberal Muslim I ever spoke to in my entire life. I mean, she was cool. I got along with her, but I mean,
I was wondering whether or not you're going to say it was a woman or not.
It was a woman. Yeah, they're not going to listen. I'm just telling you. The Dawa crowd ain't going to be happy about who represented them there. I'm just going to tell you. So I was happy about it. Although I thought the conversation went super well. We all got along well. I connected with the guy representing Judaism after. When I go back out to LA, we're going to hook up and I might do an interview with him. So it should be fun.
Nice.
Pretty awesome time. Other than it just being in LA, and LA sucks. So real quick on this, I agree the Kalam is sound. It also, the real debate is going to be on how you define and where you place causality. A lot of people are going to be like, well, I don't believe in that form of causality or this form of causality. So that seems to be where the real debate is. And yeah, the classical universe did begin to exist. Sometimes they'll switch and be like, well, the underlying quantum field may be eternal. And you're like, okay, but that's not what it's about. It's about the classical universe, not the underlying quantum world. So if they try to pivot to that, it's not going to avoid the issue. The classical universe, according to the Borg-Guth-Vilenkin theorem, is in fact contingent and does have a beginning. So yes. All right, one more super chat, then we'll get to our next guest. I've been going through a rough time with my family ever since I looked up Reddit objections to you. I've lost faith that you're a credible source. Okay, so here's the thing, Trey. What exact arguments are you referring to? Just because people say stuff on Reddit and they sound confident, that doesn't magically make them right. You got to actually I mean, quite honestly, you cannot be this worried about this kind of stuff. Do they make good arguments? Did you actually think them out critically? Or do you just think I'm a reliable source because I sound confident? You should be a critical thinker of what I say and what they're saying. Don't be fooled by confidence, because that's all this comment sounds like. It sounds like you heard some things that upset you, But instead of actually thinking about it, you just went based on the fact that they did not agree with me, which is not the way you want to be handling this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna venture and take a guess here that you stumbled upon r/biblical academic or academic biblical, whatever that thread is, whatever that subreddit is, and it's just a bunch of like people that, if you argue for the conservative Christian position in any way, shape, or form, you're seen as a quack, an apologist, and all this other stuff. And it's just a bunch of like people circle jerking each other,
Yeah.
calling people apologists, and you let yourself get gaslit by that.
Yeah. Don't be gaslit by that. You can handle it. Suffer, who came into the live chat here to talk to us. It says your device is not connected. So you don't have a mic or a camera connected. You got to get that connected in StreamYard. If you see the settings at the bottom, that might be able to help you figure that out. Because right now it's oh, there you go. It seems you've got it. Okay. So, all right, let me bring you up. Suffer, can you hear me?
Yeah, so it's Zoro. So I'm willing to like talk also about why Islam is true, but I just want to show you the story, like the other story.
If you're going to not debate the topic,
I'm not trying to troll. I promise. I'm not trying to troll. I promise.
Okay, so why is Islam true?
I only want you to see it. Like, I don't mean that.
We're not clicking a link. We're not clicking a link.
Genuinely.
Why is Islam true? I'm gonna ask you one more time. Why is Islam true?
I want to talk about that.
Let's try this again. Why is Islam true?
I told you I'm willing to discuss both things. I just want you to show the story first because I want your audience.
Bye. This is you don't run this, buddy. You don't get to come in with your Muslim superiority complex and demand to talk about what you want. This is not your channel. We're inviting you on. You're a guest. Be respectful. If you're not going to be respectful, we're not going to talk to you. And by the way, if no Muslims call in, that's a win for us because it just shows you're all a bunch of cowards and you can't come in here. Shows us that you're actually, for us doing these for months on end now and getting Muslims to call in every time. If you guys decide to stop calling in, that's a win for us. It tells us you're scared. You don't want to debate us anymore. So, yeah, it's up to you guys.
Mike, this is the proof they're too scared to click a link about the men of Al-Zut.
Yeah. This is pretty simple. We've had a lot of good conversation with Muslims. If you're a Muslim, just click the link in the live chat, call in, and we'll be happy to bring you up here. You can give your best case for why you think Islam is true. Best case. So if I had that time and people were asking me about Christianity, I'd be more than happy to do it. So we're not going to be playing these silly games with you, though. If you want to actually discuss the topic, call in and discuss the topic. If not, we're going to move on. Quite simple. Not sure how complicated this is. So, you guys think Islam is true? Go ahead and call in. We'll be happy to talk with you. God Logic says, well. And Coley says, well. Take that. Now what are you going to do? My jizya from halal Pakistani income. Are you from Pakistan? Or are you like living in Pakistan? I hope you're safe if you are. That'd be awful. Oh boy. Thank you, Dan, for becoming a YouTube member. Much appreciated. Mashallah. What do you think about Mary's appearance in 1968? Than.
Is 1968 Zaytun? I don't remember the date off the top of my head.
I thought that was older for some reason. Let me look it up. Yeah, that's Zaytun, 1968. Yeah.
I think it's I'm pretty convinced that it's a Marian apparition.
Yeah, I'm fine with saying that. I don't see that as a problem as all. Even if you're like a Protestant or something, like some Protestants get really turned off by that. And I was raised Protestant, and I'm always like, okay, so why would that be an issue? Like I remember being in like a Protestant church going like, it wouldn't be an issue. It's just because like Mary and the saints are still alive. They can still do stuff. So if Jesus is sending her to do stuff, that wouldn't be a problem. And if both Protestants or Catholics are saved, Jesus wouldn't be sending Mary to the Protestants as much as he'd be sending them to the Catholics, because that's going to resonate more with them. So never understood why that would be an issue. Yeah.
I'm playing. I'd like to do a video on Zaytun and Fatima at some point. I'm gonna do. I want to do videos on miracles in general, but those two I want to do as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you can expect Zaytun probably within a month or two.
Yeah. God Logic is asking, did the female Muslim have short hair? Yeah, she did. She was black. She had short hair. It was like in braids up. Yeah. Do you know who she is? I'd be curious if you know who she is, because I didn't know who she was. God Logic, text me if you know who that is, or if who you think it is, because I'd be curious to know who you think it is, because I didn't know who it was. That was my first time talking to her. So yeah. Having the smoke detector chirp sound is a good sign of a prophet. Nadir Ahmed probably. Yeah, that's true. He would say something like that. Sounds like a pretty accurate thing Nadir Ahmed would say, given how the dumb stuff he has said. Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. So,
is that the guy that you debated that was okay, never mind.
No, Nick of Fearless Truth just debated him. I've never debated him though, so yeah, can't say.
Oh, is that the guy that literally got caught using ChatGPT during the debate and
it's him, yeah.
the host had to like yell at him?
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Did you guys take God the Father can't give knowledge claims on sense data from a personal qualitative manner since he has no physical properties? Is this in some reference to something you've said?
No, I can understand this question a few different ways, to be honest with you. Because you can ask the question about like what kinds of knowledge God can have in general. So I mean, like you could oh shoot, what's the technical term here? I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't know what you mean by can't give knowledge. Did you mean to say have knowledge?
Yeah, I don't understand what you mean by this. I need more context.
The wording is kind of messy too, Lamb. Just if you want to explain in the chat, I'll look.
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. Not sure what this is about. Yeah. I'm posting YouTube shorts, Atheism versus Christianity, done one of Planting's evolutionary argument against naturalism. Thoughts on hinge theory as a rebuttal. Do you know what that is?
Hinge theory. It's been a while since I've done EA and stuff.
I have no clue what hinge theory is. So not entirely sure what this is. Yeah, I've never even heard of this response to it. And it's been a while since I've even looked at it. So can't help you there. Why is God 3 and not 2 or 4? Good question. So Richard Swinburne points out that that's the minimal number God would need to be the full representation of love, because you can have love between two people. What?
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Keep going.
Whereas love between three people represents more of a community and family. So it's a more complete understanding of love, because just love between two persons is good, valuable, but it's not a complete understanding of love. When you have a third person, you have a community, and that encompasses all of what we understand as love. Any extra would be unnecessary, so that might be why as well. Other than that, I've heard people try to make like a number argument, because you have 100%, but I mean, I don't know if that works. And you have 33.3, 33.3, 30.33, and that goes on infinitely. I'm not sure if that's a good way, because that sounds more like partialism, but I've heard people try to make that argument. Maybe you could do it in an unsound way, like in a sound, non-heretical way, but I think just the love argument works in that sense.
Yeah. There's other questions you can ask here too. I was talking to Joe Schmidt about this, because you can even ask the question, like, why a Unitarian God instead of a whatever the 7-person God would be, right? Like the key principle you're trying to hone in on here is actually about like arbitrary limits, basically. Like, why is there this many and not more? Kind of a question, right? And it's going to be arbitrary if there's no explanation. And the basic idea is like 1 is still going to be an arbitrary number, barring any explanation. I think the love argument can work. Another way you can actually take this too is, this is going to be a little dorky, but since we don't have Muslims yet, I'll kind of yap for a second. You could take a constitutive approach to the divine essence. So the basic idea is like, most people, when they think about essences, they're going to take what's called a modal approach, and they're going to think like the essence of an object is going to be basically cashed out in terms of like what it has to be necessarily in terms of a modal characterization. But you could take what's called a definitional characterization of the divine essence, and then divinity or godness is going to be equal to the definition of all the propositions we would affirm of such a thing. And so if God is just defined as all the propositions we would normally affirm and all three persons, well, then there's the answer to that question. Now, there's more to that, but that's an approach that I would take actually personally myself. So.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That makes sense. Gonna send the link out to some of my Muslim buddies. God bless y'all. Awesome. That sounds good to me. So yeah, no one has called in yet. This is different. We may need to start branching out to do TikTok in the future if Muslims don't want to call in here. Let's find that interesting. This wasn't a problem up until this stream, so find that kind of odd. Muhammad appears in the Song of Solomon. You see, that's true. He's right in the middle of the bride and the lover having intercourse. She breaks out into a prophecy of Muhammad. And by the way, just so you know, the Muhammad in Song of Solomon 5 actually drinks alcohol. So, came to my garden, my sister read, I gathered my myrrh with my spices, I ate my honeycomb with my milk, I drank my milk and my wine and my milk. That's he talking. Then she talks, and then she's talking about the lover, who is the he. So whoever the he is a drinker of alcohol. So pretty weird. Muhammad wants to commit a sin like that, and he drinking alcohol. Because again, she is speaking here. She's describing her beloved who drinks wine. Very, very odd. Muhammad wants to drink wine. Don't entirely get it. So odd argument we want to use. So let's bring in somebody in here.
There we go. Yeah.
Subhanallah, or is that you?
Yeah, I'm Subhanallah.
Good. How you doing? You're Muslim?
No, I want to tell you guys that I like what you are doing. I come up to respect you and say that I like what you're doing online, and say that Allah is gay.
Allah is gay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Are you a Christian or what?
Yeah. I'm a Christian. Christ is Lord.
All right. Well, we appreciate the support, man. I'm gonna let somebody else up here though. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
On.
Okay.
Samuel, are you there? Samuel 15:3. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah, so it's Zoro. So let's just talk about why Islam is true then, okay?
Oh, for the love of God. I'll give, this will be your last chance. Why is Islam true?
So first, I want to know what your criteria of truth is, because truth can be subjective depending on what kind of condition someone is born into, right?
No, there's only one truth. Truth is objective. It's objective. So 2 + 2 = 4 is objectively true. It's objectively true that George Washington was the first president. It's objectively true that Jesus was crucified and rose from the dead. That's what we say as Christians. So if it's objectively true that Muhammad is a prophet, we need some evidence. So for example, some evidence would be, hey, Muhammad did a miracle. Here's why. Muhammad was prophesied in some ancient texts, and then he fulfilled that. So what is the evidence Muhammad actually is a true prophet?
Okay, but when I said subjective, I'm meaning that, for example, a person who's born in some sort of distant tribe, right? They don't know about Christianity. How do you expect them to independently come to the conclusion that God is 3 in 1?
No, because truth is not contingent on the fact that everyone gets a chance to hear it. For example, a lot of people have not known about quantum mechanics. That doesn't mean the universe wasn't quantum prior to people discovering quantum mechanics. So even if Christianity is true, just because everyone hasn't heard it doesn't make it false.
Are you asking about like epistemology right now, or like methodology? Yeah. What are you trying to figure out?
Well, epistemology.
Okay.
So, why are you a Muslim? What has convinced you that Islam is true? I can tell you why I think Christianity is true. I think the Gospels are reliable, and I think there's plenty of evidence Jesus rose from the dead. So, what is your evidence that Muhammad was a true prophet? What convinces you?
Okay, but is it like the faith of someone who was there during the first century that actually met Jesus? Is their faith the same? Is it equivalent to your faith?
Dude.
Like your belief in it.
What is the evidence for Islam? Okay, we have you have a hypothesis. You have a hypothesis. Islam is true. What are the data points that are more expected on the hypothesis that Islam is true than not?
Well, first of all, I'm going to remain Muslim because I was born Muslim.
That's fine.
That's not what I'm asking you. That's not what we're asking you.
And if you want to remain Muslim, even if it turns out to be false, that's on you. You could be separated from God for eternity. We are going to follow the evidence where it leads because we believe in truth. We hope you do too. So give us the evidence Islam is true. Like
Samuel, if you had a friend that came up to you and was like, "Yo, Samuel, I got chocolate milk in the other room," right? And you're like, "Okay, but like, prove it to me." Imagine he goes to the other room and brings it to you. The fact that there's chocolate milk in front of you is evidence that he had it in the other room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Islam is true, what are the things that are observations or data points that support the idea that it's true?
I mean, there's a lot. Like, it's a whole institution. It's a whole lifestyle. Obviously saying that, oh yeah, what's evidence? Like, you expect me to list it out in like what, a 30-minute conversation?
Listen, CrossFit is an organization and a lifestyle. That doesn't make it the true nature of reality.
Yeah, but you're not spending your entire life talking about CrossFit. You're spending.
Oh, you've never met someone in CrossFit, sir.
Yeah, dude.
Listen, if you ever met a vegan,
oh my gosh, burn in hell forever, or you're gonna be
Samuel.
I'm tortured forever.
Samuel. Surely there is some evidence you can point to. I'm not asking you to give me all of the evidence in the world, but we can start with we can start with just one data point that is evidence.
I mean, what would be convincing to you? Like that's
very simple.
What I'm trying to understand.
I'll tell you what. Absolutely. I'll tell you. Look, is there evidence that Muhammad did a miracle? Did he split the moon, for example? Okay, if he split the moon and we can like show that through like astronomy or cosmological research, dang, that's and we know that it happened in the 7th century. Dang, that's some pretty good evidence right there. Or if like Muhammad like said like the first president of the United States will be George Washington, and like no one in that time knew what the United States was or the name George Washington, dang, that'd be some good evidence. Or something like that. Or so here's what I'll tell you. If you don't want to give me evidence as to why Islam is true, I'm going to show you why Islam is false.
Okay, sure. You can share with me. I want to hear your side as well.
Sure. So far we have no evidence Islam is true. Let's go to Surah 381. Allah made a covenant with the prophets. Now that I've given you the book and wisdom, if there comes to you a messenger confirming what you have, you must believe in him and support him. Okay? So Allah made a covenant saying, listen, if a messenger comes confirming the book that I've given you, you should believe and support him. Well, we have our book, the Bible. Muhammad came. He did not confirm it. He contradicted it. So we have to reject him as a prophet. That's why. So that there you go. There's a good reason by Allah's own criteria we should reject Muhammad as a prophet, because he didn't confirm what we have. We are supposed to accept messengers that confirm what we have. Muhammad didn't. And yes, this is talking about the people of the book. We just read it in the context.
Okay, so let me ask you something. How many prophets do you believe like there have been in like total history?
Countless. We don't know them all.
Countless, right? So you're telling me every single one of them shared the exact same theology across thousands of years?
Yeah.
Really?
The same thing. Now, some may have only had parts of it. Like, for example, what Abraham knew is not the same thing John the Baptist knew. John the Baptist had a more complete understanding of God and his revelatory knowledge. So, for example, Abraham comes along. He knows that Yahweh's God, but he doesn't know the full salvation plan per se. That does not mean he's not a prophet. So, but he doesn't. But John the Baptist and Abraham don't contradict.
Right. So they don't contradict. Okay. So did Abraham believe in creatio ex nihilo? Did John the Baptist believe in creatio ex materia? Like, is that a
They didn't talk
contradiction?
about that. They didn't talk about that, so we don't know.
Yeah, but I'm asking, isn't that like
they never gave anything that would contradict that, though. That's the important part.
I mean, the concept of creatio ex nihilo and creatio ex materia isn't that relevant? Like, isn't this two different theologies?
The two prophets you are asking about right now do not speak on the topic within the office of their prophethood, right?
Right.
But don't you think they should have spoken about that?
No.
Okay, should Muhammad have spoken about quantum physics?
No.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Apply the same logic.
But creatio ex nihilo and creatio ex materia are religious concepts. Like, they're important religious concepts because they, play into divine simplicity and the essence energies distinction. And you know how the Orthodox and the Catholics accuse each other of being like heretics? Wouldn't have stopped the schism from happening?
None of this has anything to do with why we should reject Muhammad, because you're just making arguments from silence. You should be in agreement with me that the Quran contradicts the Bible, but we are told as the people of the book to only accept messengers that confirm what we have. Muhammad didn't, so we should not believe in him and support him. Therefore, we have to reject Muhammad as a false prophet.
It says
Samuel, on top of that, just you can reverse the logic again. Don't Muslims have debates about models of God,
we do.
Tawheed, all this other stuff? So shouldn't have Muhammad, spoken on something that religiously significant?
Yeah, so I'm asking you, if there's an issue in Islam where various sects disagree with each other, and doesn't the same logic apply to Christianity? So how do you square that circle?
It's quite simple. We agree on essential Christian doctrines, and the other things are not necessary. So
how can they not be necessary if you're like
hold on?
each other?
There's a conflation. There's a conflation here, possibly here, because what we're saying is the prophets are not going to contradict each other. Right.
So why did their ministries contradict each other?
Say what?
So why did their ministries end up producing people that contradict each other?
Muhammad produced ministries that made people contradict each other.
You just debunked Islam.
That is a different question than whether or not the prophets contradict each other.
Well, I don't think so.
You don't think that Islam has produced various sects?
Oh no, it has, yeah.
Okay, then same logic applies.
Muhammad's a false prophet because his revelation.
I'm not saying that it proves Christianity is false. Like, I'm asking you what you think about it. Like,
well, we told you. Okay, just think about it. That's going to happen because humans are fallible, but that does not mean the prophets contradict. Muhammad contradicts all the prior prophets. Therefore, we should reject him.
I'm not sure how you can believe that Isaiah and the author of the Gospel of John shared the same theology. Like, I genuinely don't know how you could believe that.
Where do they contradict?
Yeah, I was going to say there's a difference between a theology that is different from one another and a theology that is in contradiction to one another.
Yeah, this is pretty common stuff.
Sorry, just 1 second.
You're good. The other thing I would just point in here is, and it's okay that you're doing this, right? Because I'm assuming you're just trying to look for some consistency from us, which is a good thing to do. But let's just say, for example, that we needed to find a way to be more consistent. This doesn't get you out of the Islamic dilemma still.
Yeah, this is not a problem. And again, we don't have an issue. Now, here's something I can show you. I just got this pulled up for you. So let me pull this up. I'm gonna show you a verse from
about the dilemma. Do you believe with 100% certainty that there is no resolution to the dilemma?
There is no resolution to the dilemma.
With the 100% certainty.
100% certainty. Yeah.
Then what would the point of me trying to argue about this be? Like, what would be the point? If we're not open to the idea that you could be wrong about it, then what's the point in me trying to refute you?
Zoro, quick question. Can you give me a rough estimate of how old you are?
I'm 21.
Okay. In about 50 to 70 years, like every human on this earth, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And you're going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
We know Christianity is true. We love you and we care about you, even though we can be tough on people sometimes. We are tough on people because we do love you and care about you, because Jesus loves you and cares about you. We don't want you to go to hell. We don't want you to be separated from him forever. We asked you for a good couple minutes, why should we believe in Islam? You couldn't give us anything. Now we've given you a reason Islam is false. You can't deal with it. Why are you in this religion? This religion is going to lead you to hell. We're trying to get you out of that. That's why we're having these conversations.
Okay, but why am I going to hell? Why can't I just be annihilated by Jesus on the day of resurrection?
Well, we're annihilationists, so
you can be. Yeah, we do believe that can happen. Yeah, so that's not a problem.
Then I'm not interested in converting to your religion. Then
why?
Okay.
No, think about it. Okay, let me ask you. Let's say in a religion it says that if you don't convert, then you miss out on heaven, but there is no hell. And then in the religion B, there is no heaven, but if you don't convert, you go to hell. Which one is more logical to believe in?
What?
You're reasoning like a hedonist.
You're absolutely reasoning like a hedonist. And by the way, we don't believe that hell doesn't exist. Annihilationism does not mean you don't go to hell. I argue hell is the process of annihilation, or you can stay there for eternity. But you go there, you get separated from God.
So you do believe in
Yes, I do. We didn't notice what we said. We said that that's the possibility. I have been very vocal on this channel. I say hell is the process that could lead to annihilation. However, I have also said, hold on, I've said I'm not nailed to that. Either way, you don't want to go there, period, end of story, and we don't want you to go there. And you should not be reasoning like this. You should not be reading based on hedonistic desires. You should be following truth. Christians here are interested in truth. Are you?
Okay, but we were talking for it's been 15 minutes we were talking and you already brought up hell. So obviously you yourself are also
Zoro, that's because you asked us, why are we trying to convince you?
Yeah, so your ultimate reason is a hedonistic reason.
Are you kidding me? Do you know what hedonism is?
I asked you why and you gave me a hedonistic reason.
Do you know what hedonism is?
Yes.
The symmetry breaker here is that we want you to go to the thing that is the good, that is God, right?
You want me to go to the thing that is good because you believe it's part of your own good. It's not. You're not doing it just for my sake. You're also doing it for your own sake.
If Christianity is true,
hold up, Than. We get nothing out of this. We're already saved. Jesus died for us. By grace, we are saved through faith, not of works, so that no man can boast. Ephesians chapter 2. So we're not trying to save you because we have to, or it's going to make us better for us. We're doing this because that's what Jesus called us to do.
And why did he do that?
Because he loves us and died for us.
Okay, but then why is he sending anyone to hell?
Because you're rejecting him. C.S. Lewis put it like this: when it comes to the doctrine of hell, it is itself a question. What are you asking God to do? To wipe out past sins and give them a fresh start? He did on Calvary. To forgive them, they don't want to be forgiven. To leave them alone, that's what hell is. There are only two kinds of people in the end: those who say to God, thy will be done, and those to whom God says, thy will be done. All that are in hell choose it.
Okay, but let me ask you something. Let's say you're walking down the street every single day, and on that street there's like a drug addict, and this drug addict, you're watching them torture themselves every single day. Now you have the power to kill this drug addict and put them out of their misery forever. But you say that he's doing that to himself. I'm not going to put him out of his misery, right? He's doing that to himself. Are you evil or not?
Your whole thing has a whole lot of assumptions you've not justified. Why would we put someone out of their misery when death is misery? Like that's why Jesus defeated and destroyed death.
What I mean is, like, to make them stop existing. Can Jesus make the people in hell stop existing?
Potentially, yeah. What about it though?
So do you believe that he should be doing that for all of them?
No, because God is life. God gives life. So this is the whole thing about my view. Hell is the process of annihilation. If God is life, he's not going to destroy life because he's going to keep trying to pull people towards him. And the more you get closer to God, the better you are. So that's why we kind of want to keep pulling people closer to God. God's not going to do the very thing that goes against his very nature.
So how's it fair for you how's it fair for you to oscillate between annihilationism and possible eternal hell? I don't get it.
I've told you my view. Because A, we're not on the other side. We don't know the entire truth. So we're talking about things that are not heretical or not. And B, I've said hell is the process that can annihilate. But if somebody doesn't want to ever go through the full process, they'd be there forever. Yeah.
Zoro, can you help me understand? It's like a genuine question. Because it sounds like you just have no interest in leaving Islam to become a Christian. Can you help me understand why that's the case?
The religions are so similar. It's like we're just repeating the same arguments back to each other. I know you guys didn't see it that way, but for most
how are you
people,
going
do it that way.
Well,
how are you going to heaven in Islam?
If I do righteous works and then I believe.
That's not Christianity. Jesus saves us from our sins. Our works do not get us to heaven. In fact, it's impossible for your works to ever get you to heaven.
Okay, so let me ask you something. When you profess that you believe in Jesus, is that a work?
That's a profession. That's not doing something. Like in
that
sense,
you're saying with.
No, you're equivocating. Yeah, you're saying words. Listen, if a man is drowning in the sea and he says, "Help, save me," and then I go and pull him out, did he say, "Well, I really did all the work. You know, I called out and you heard me"? No, that'd be silly. So don't get nitpicky about that kind of stuff. There's a huge difference there between a work and asking to be saved.
I don't see how they're supposed to be mutually exclusive.
Right. Listen, I appreciate you coming, man. We're going to move on to someone else because I want to actually talk about the topic and we're just going down these weird rabbit holes. Iblis, Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yep.
Are you Muslim?
Yes, I have a question about the Bible. I'm studying and I just want to get a clarification on it.
Okay, so are you interested in converting to Christianity? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm very interested, but I don't know about the verse. Numbers, number 31, 17, 18 in Numbers.
Yep.
To me, it sounds very wrong. It sounds like God is commanding, kill the little ones and every woman that have known man by laying with him, but all the children that have not known man by laying with him, keep for yourself. Isn't that?
Let's go to this right
to my understanding that it comes across as child marriage.
Nope. So let's go to this, for example. So in Islam, you say prophets cannot commit major sins, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we don't have that in Christianity. In Christianity, prophets do commit major sins. Abraham sinned, Noah sinned, David sinned, Solomon sinned. In Christianity, prophets do commit major sins. So that's the first thing. Let's read this passage. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Avenge the people of Israel on the Midianites. Afterward, you shall be gathered to your people." So notice what God says here. This is all he says. Avenge the people of Israel. So Moses spoke to the people, saying, "Arm men from among you for the war, that you may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. You shall send 1,000 from each of the tribes of Israel to the war." So there were provided out of the thousands of Israel 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them to war, 1,000 from each tribe, together with Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, with the vessels of the sanctuary and the trumpets up for the alarm in his hand. They warred against Midian as the Lord commanded Moses, and they killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian with the rest of the slain. And they mention these names. And they went and killed Balaam, the son of Beor, with the sword. And the people of Israel took captive the women of Midian and their little ones. And they took his plunder of the cattle and their flocks and their goods. So this is just talking about them bringing them back. Then notice what happens when they come back. So Moses and Eleazar, the priest, and all the chiefs of the congregation went to meet them outside of the camp. And Moses was angry. Notice Moses is angry with the officers of army, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds. And then Moses said to them, have you let the women live? So notice who's talking here. It's not God, it's Moses. And if you read Robert Alter's commentary here, he notes that as well. He notes, for example, let me find it right here for you because he brings this up. Moses' command, one should note that it's Moses', not God's, to perpetrate this general massacre, including only the virgin females. So notice God does not command this. This is Moses. And if you follow the narrative of the Pentateuch, as scholars like Joel Correcco notes, one of the major themes in the Pentateuch is that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Now it's Moses' turn. Moses is turned into a Pharaoh figure where he's executing judgment on the little ones like Pharaoh did earlier in the chapter. So this is about Moses' downfall. He's not going to be the redeemed savior of humanity. He's failed. And that's the major points of the Torah.
So does the Bible say Moses sinned?
Yes, Moses sinned. Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, because of that reason, I don't think I should become a Christian. It's very evil. It's evil.
Why is it evil?
Nowhere in the Bible it says Moses sinned for that particular verse, 17, 18, where it says kill the little ones. It looks like it was a command from God.
It doesn't say it, though. It says it's from Moses, though. And
but then if you go to Deuteronomy, where it says, marry the rape victims and pay the father 50 shekels.
Well, hold on. We're changing subjects. Okay. So before we move on to that, we can get to that. But here we have an issue. You do acknowledge this is Moses sinning, right?
No, it's not Moses sinning. Moses didn't sin.
So you're saying Moses didn't sin?
Nope. They killed the little ones and married little girls.
Where does
God was okay with that.
Say Mary? Where does Numbers 31 say Mary?
In number 18 it says, "But all the women and children that have no man by laying with him, keep alive for yourself." What did they do for themselves, for the little girls? What did they keep for themselves?
They incorporated them into the people of Israel. It doesn't say. You're assuming
they take them as captives. They take them as captives. They pare the nails. They shave their head, and they shall become his wife. It says that in the Bible as well.
No, you're misunderstanding.
So basically, what you are talking about when you talk about Islam.
Hold on.
You got to look at your own verses.
Hold up. You said this shows Christianity is evil when we're just saying Moses sinned. So why does that show Christianity is evil?
Because what the command is, if you see in another chapter, it says when you see a captive woman that's beautiful, captures your eyes, take them home. And when you take them home, the woman should pare her nail, mourn her family for about a month. Then you can marry them, and that includes the little girls.
Where does it say that?
Do you think that?
Let me look it up.
Hey, question. Do you think that the Old Testament is painting all of these things in a normative light? Like this is the ethical ideal?
Sorry, what do you mean by it?
So there's different ways to read the scriptures, right?
Yeah.
And I'm asking you, do you think that these are descriptions of how, generally, I'm talking about the Old Testament generally, could just like zero out to the general category of the war texts. Do you think that all of these are just descriptions of how God has interacted with the world and how the world kind of engaged with the covenantal identity of Israel?
That's how people used to believe in the book. I would say yes. That was God's commandments, and if people done it by the book, then it's okay.
Let me finish my question. Do you think that this is the ethical ideal that's being pointed to here, or do you think that there might be something deeper going on within the narrative context?
I would say something deeper as well.
Also, real quick, before we even move on to that, let's just look at this, the Hebrew. So it says young woman there. But if we go to the verse you were talking about, that's a different word. It just says woman. It does not refer to them being young. So it has to be a woman, not a child.
Is that the Hebrew one?
That's the Hebrew, yep. So, yeah, it does not say little girls in Deuteronomy 21.
Well, it does say it in a way. I mean...
No, it doesn't. Let me... Nope.
Many scholars do say that.
We're going to go through this passage. So we work with an Old Testament scholar named Joel Quranic. Here's what he points about this passage. Let's read this together. When you go to war against your enemies and the Lord your God gives them into your hand and you take them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, not a beautiful child, and you desire to take her to be your wife, not your sex slave, and you bring her to your house, notice the shift. Notice it says you bring her to your house. Now notice the shift here. She shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall take off her clothes in which she was captured, and shall remain in your house and lament her father and mother for a full month. After that, you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. Joel Quranic points out, notice how the pronouns shift from you to her, implying she has to be a willing participant. She's engaging in this because she does want to be the wife. She's not being forced to. You're not shaving her head. You're not paring her nails. You're not taking off the clothes. So
what happened to her older husband?
Hold up. Let me finish. So this is about her being a participant in this. Not her
so
being forced to do it.
She would be a participant in this after they killed the family members, like the father and the mother, because the mother is not a virgin. The daughter is a virgin, but the father is not a virgin, and the mother is not a virgin, so they both got killed. And
where does God say that?
Captive will be like, yes, I killed your parents, mate. I killed your family. You should marry me. That sounds like rape.
Where does it say that? You listen. No, hold up. Before you go, Than, you just read a whole bunch of stuff into the verse that it does not say because you're desperate. This is called ad hoc assumptions. It doesn't say that. You read that into that. So either go on what it actually says, not what you want it to say. Go ahead, Than.
I'm just reading the Bible. I'm just reading the Bible.
No. You did not. I read the Bible. You made up a bunch of woo-woo nonsense the Bible doesn't say. Notice the difference.
I got a scholarship on the Bible. I know the Bible. I read the Bible.
You obviously don't, because I just read it to you and you didn't know what it said. You said it talked about her being raped. It doesn't say that. So where were you getting that from?
Okay. So I haven't got other verses in Deuteronomy where it says when a woman goes out.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not interested. This is so ridiculous. He just keeps deflecting. I'm not going to keep doing this all day. Hey, here, I solved this verse for you. Oh, okay. Well, let me go to this other verse. Oh, okay. All to avoid the fact that he knows he can't show that Islam is true, because there's absolutely no evidence that Islam is true. And that's why they always deflect to the Bible.
Yeah, I don't even know how I would even begin to unpack like some of my views on this with like the redemptive movement, ethic hermeneutic, and
it'd be a lot. Yeah. AN, are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, are you Muslim?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you show us why Islam is true?
No problem. So I can give you an exhaustive account of why I believe Islam to be the truth. All right. So just bear with me, and I'll go over a couple arguments. And if you want to highlight or
let's go through one argument at a time.
One by one.
And if it doesn't convince us, we can move to the next one or something.
Yeah, I would say. So these are my criterions that I would use to sufficiently prove that the Prophet Muhammad is a true prophet. I would say, first of all, we have preservation. We have traceability of our sources back to its origin whenever it comes to the Quran, whenever it comes to the evidences that we use, whenever it comes to the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. This is what we use.
All right, let's slow down. Let's slow down a little bit here. You're talking really fast. There's no reason to go this fast, bro.
Okay, no problem. So I believe that the Prophet Muhammad, according to the revelation that he received, he had knowledge about the unknowable past, and he had knowledge about the unforeseeable future. Right.
All right. So let's talk about the past. What's the unknowable past he knew about?
Okay. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he gave us a multitude of specific claims within the Quran by virtue of the revelation that he received, where he talks about the ancient prayers that the Egyptians used to use and utilize in basically glorifying and deifying their authoritative figures. All right, we can go into that evidence. He also gives us.
Wait, hold up. So they used to glorify their figures, and that's somehow evidence.
Yes. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he's aware of ancient hieroglyphical prayers. Do you agree or disagree so far?
You have to show me that he's actually aware of them. And also that would have been common knowledge. We know, for example, that this information was preserved in like Greeks, for example, the Greek works. They knew about the way the Egyptian religion worked, and they passed that down.
Sounds good. So let's get into it, please. So here, I'll get you the verses. It would be chapter 44, verse 17, right? And you just have to highlight and specify chapter 44, verse 17, and then you connect that to chapter 44, verse 29. If you want me to share my screen, I can put the verses.
Indeed, before then, we tested Pharaoh's people. A noble messenger came to them. That's verse 17. Do you want me to read verse 29?
Yes, please.
Okay. Neither heaven nor earth wept over them, nor was their fate delayed. What about this is supposed to be?
Okay. If I could put up a source from Alan Gardiner where he translates the ancient utterances, if you can allow me to share my screen, you can check it out, see if I'm going to share anything bad, if you'd like, before you put it up.
Okay, so yeah,
Thank
we
you.
tested. Now, real quick, isn't this about the Pharaoh drowning in the Red Sea?
No, this isn't. That's
You
in
sure?
Yusuf, yes.
Okay.
So right here.
I thought that was in a couple different verses, isn't it?
No, we can go over those verses in a bit, but right here we're hyperfixated on one specific glorification or one specific prayer that the ancient Egyptians used to use and utilize, and saying that the cosmic bodies or these inanimate objects used to weep over their authoritative figures. So neither the heavens nor the earth wept over them, nor was their fate delayed. Now, whenever it comes to the ancient utterances that we have, this is Samuel A.B. Mercer.
But I mean, this is common knowledge of the ancient world. We know that people did this with idols.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, but this is not a miracle, is what I'm saying, though. This is just people knew this stuff. Muhammad's just repeating tales of old that he knew about.
Mike, please. If you could allow me to substantiate, or if you could allow me to thoroughly hash this out, right? Maybe I can offer a little more substance than what you just heard, right? Right now you're just taking it face value, but we're not getting into the nitty-gritty details of it. And if this miracle isn't convincing enough, that's fine. I make an accumulative case. I bring multiple forms of evidence.
To call it a miracle is just not accurate. It's just knowing ancient information.
It's fine. You can think that, but you're not letting me substantiate. So please allow me to substantiate. Okay. So this is Samuel A.B. Mercer, where he translates the ancient utterance texts. All right. The ancient utterances right here. If you go to page 352, the sky weeps for thee, the earth trembles for thee. Okay. So this is utterance 553. Right. This is an ancient utterance that's dated around the Second Intermediate Kingdom period or to the Middle Kingdom period. Right. Where the ancient Egyptians used to glorify their deities, used to glorify their rulers. And I have another prayer for you. Yeah, if you want to ride side by side.
This is not, dude. This is not a miracle. The ancient, like Herodotus has talked about this kind of stuff.
Please allow me to finish, all right? And then we'll go and thoroughly evaluate. Okay, but you just keep on repeating. It's not a miracle. I know, but you just repeating it's not a miracle.
Okay, no. I want to know what the actual argument is. The argument is Muhammad knew something that ancient people knew. Is that the argument?
I got you. So the argument.
Yes or no? Is that the argument?
No, I'm gonna stipulate the argument. Just give me a second. So the argument would be the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was an unlettered man in 7th century Arabia with no access to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphical texts, right, which were undeciphered until 1822, right? Whenever we found the Rosetta Stone, the artifact that's
are you kidding
in the British Museum.
So Herodotus and Plutarch's works were not available.
Mike, can I finish? And
I'm asking I asked a simple question. Were Herodotus
you interrupted my argument. So if I could please finish,
because
then
it's not an argument. It's ridiculous.
Okay, you did interrupt my argument. I didn't get to my conclusion. Okay?
Get to your conclusion then.
Okay, dude, don't ask me for an argument if you're just going to interrupt it in the middle. Like, what is this? Okay, so if the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, right, was an unlettered man of 7th century Arabia with no access to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphical texts, right? Yet the Quran is using the exact imagery the Egyptians had used for a millennia, right? And the Quran, subhanAllah, brilliantly inverts it, right? Inverts it to show Pharaoh's humiliation, right? This is a historical correspondence that cannot be explained in a natural way, especially.
Yes, I just, dude.
Wait, especially.
Dude, I just explained it to you.
If you're unable, if I'm able to make an accumulative case and you're not able to explain how the Prophet Muhammad had this by any sort of relevant data or information that he had in his time contemporary to him, then that'd be a problem. That'd be error on your part, right?
No,
So hieroglyphical text-
Surah 60, Surah 625, Surah 831 through 25:5, Surah 2768 talk about his critics repeating tales of the ancients.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
and you can get this kind of knowledge by reading what Greek writers like Herodotus and Plutarch talked about. So
we have
that information was well known in the culture of the time. Those tales were being spread around. This is how it came to Muhammad. That's a far simpler explanation than miracle.
I got you. So, or is that under the presupposition of naturalism?
That's a naturalistic explanation.
Okay, naturalistic explanation. But I'm saying the text from Herod, you said, correct?
Herodotus.
Thank you. So the text from Herodotus, he says that there's an ancient prayer that the Egyptians used to make, where they said the sky weeps for thee, the heavens weep for thee, and he says that this is traceable back to the ancient Egyptians.
This stuff was being spread around. People did not lose all knowledge of ancient Egypt. That's an assumption
Here's the direct prayer. Right?
Man, so what? We know about. Okay.
Can you zoom that in a little bit just so I can see it a little bit better?
Of course. No problem. Right here on the highlighted?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Okay. The heavens and the earth weep for thee. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inverts this, right? To the Pharaoh's own detriment and to the humiliation of the ancient Egyptians who used to glorify in a false manner that of their authoritative figures, rulers, deities, whatever it may be. Okay. So if we don't have any sort of information or data, any data points, I'll use Stan's language, we don't have any data points from Herodotus where he tells us that the ancient Egyptians used to ascribe or used to invoke this specific kind of prayer, right, in glorifying their authoritative figures or their rulers or their deities or whatever it may be, then you're not giving me any sort of evidence. You're just saying people claimed acts.
Yes, we did. Yes, Herodotus spoke about the gods they worship, that they weep for, all that kind of stuff.
Do you have a source for me, please? If not, we can move on to the next.
I gave it to you, Herodotus.
Herodotus.
It's in histories, for example.
Okay, Herodotus in histories. Do you have a source for me?
Have a good day, man.
Dude,
I gave you the source. If you're not going to give it to me,
okay, but I don't.
Dude, if you're not gonna take that, this is not a conversation. This is a natural. It's an easy explanation.
Fine.
Very easy explanation.
If that's your explanation, that's fine. We can move on to the next.
Okay, so that one's debunked. Let's move to the next one.
Nice, debunked. Okay, so the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he was accurately, precisely, and succinctly able to provide a distinction and title applied to the different rulers in the different times of the Second Intermediate Kingdom period to the New Kingdom period. So I'll just ask you very simply.
Not this one.
It's easy for me. And I'll bring up scholarship as well. No problem. So
yeah, you're going to bring stupid Pharaoh argument.
Mike, no one has come up with substance, right? Like this.
I have.
No one. The last guy before you, his name was Iblis. Okay, can we get into some substance, please? All right.
You're going to use the Pharaoh argument, aren't you?
Hey, real quick. Do you have this written out somewhere?
Do I have this written up somewhere? Yeah, I can post an article online about it, but I have it in my own personal notes.
No, the only reason I'm asking is if you're looking for like substance on this, I'm happy to do that, but I want to do that slowly, if that makes sense. So
I'll slow down my speech. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So
no, I'm saying like if you have a written article or something like that I can look at.
I do. Not really an article that I've posted online, but in my own personal notes, I do have a good amount, a great deal of information.
Yeah, if you'd be willing to email me that at some point, I'm happy to look at it.
No problem. Sounds good. I can do that. So with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, right? It's very simple. So the Quran tells us about the story of Joseph. Right? The Quran uses the word Malik to refer to Joseph's rule, king. Right? An ancient Egyptian sort of language. Right? They use the word Niswat, or they use king. They always use this to refer to their sovereign of Egypt. Right? The word Pera or Pharaoh in the time of Abraham, it did not mean a sovereign or a ruler of Egypt. Would you agree with me so far, Mike?
Yeah, the term Pharaoh was not used for that till about the New Kingdom. Yeah.
Beautiful. So in the time of Abraham and in the time of Joseph, the word Pharaoh was not used to refer to a sovereign of Egypt. It only meant great house or great temple. Right? That's from our ancient data, modern linguistic studies, Egyptologists. They've all come to this conclusion. I'll give you 5 sources if you'd like. All right.
I already know it.
Okay, thank you. So whenever the Bible in Genesis chapter 12, verse 18 says Pharaoh summoned Abram, you would just take this to be anachronistic language, correct?
No, that's the word in Hebrew. They're writing in Hebrew, and the word Pharaoh in Hebrew means ruler of Egypt, the same it means in English. This is why we have modern day Egyptologists referring to Dozier as a pharaoh, even though he's from the Old Kingdom.
So modern, you said we have modern day Egyptologists who say that, what was the pharaoh's name, or what was the ruler's name?
Dozier. He's from the Old Kingdom.
Dozier, and they refer to him as pharaoh.
Yeah.
But the ancient hieroglyphical data doesn't state that para was used and applied to any sort of ruler, correct? But in the Old Kingdom period and the Middle Kingdom period, and
doesn't matter. They're talking in English. It's an English word now. It's a transliterated word in English, and now we use it in that sense.
Yeah, I see. I know that, right? But we're talking about the Hebrew word for pero or pharaoh, right? Now, this word wasn't used and ascribed to a specific ruler in the time of Abraham, neither in the second intermediate kingdom period in the time of Joseph, right? Only in the New Kingdom period did the word para or pero shift in meaning, right? Shift in meaning to start referring to a sovereign. It originally meant great house or great temple, and it shifted in meaning, and it started meaning a sovereign or a ruler of ancient Egypt. So right here, I can put a source on the screen if you'd like to talk about, if you'd like to see what some.
How many times does the Quran talk about the Pharaoh of Joseph?
Oh, Pharaoh of Joseph, zero times. It doesn't use the word Pharaoh.
So how many times does it talk about the king of Joseph?
The king, around 5, I think 4 to 5 times.
Six times. Yeah. He mentions him 6 times. That's a problem. Let me show you why. I already have slides on this.
Yeah.
This is not a statistical analysis because Genesis talks about the Pharaoh / king of Joseph 73 times and the Quran only mentions 6. Based on statistical analyses, that's basically a meaningfully significant amount because there's not enough times for it to actually mention the Pharaoh of Joseph to be a meaningful amount. And by the way, if it's going to use correct terminology, then the Quran makes several errors because, for example, in Surah 12, it says that Joseph was sold for a few coins, and it uses dirhams, which comes from the Greek word drachma, which is silver coinage that only goes back to the 6th century. The Arabic word for pharaoh, for one, is actually a transliteration of the Greek form of the word. So it's using a much later Greek term, actually, not the way the ancient Egyptians would have used it. So by that logic, the Quran is an error.
Nice. Okay, let's get to it. So first of all, whenever it comes to, I'm gonna respond to these points. Mike, what are you doing? I'm gonna respond to these points. Okay, no problem. So first of all, whenever it comes to dirham linguistically, and I can show you lisan al-Arab, it just means a weight, right? A form of weight or a form of usage, right? So whenever it talks about any form of weight,
comes from that term.
Whenever it talks about weight, right, we would say the weight just refers to the coinage, right? No problem, no issue. We don't.
There were no coins though.
Language. But
what are you talking about? Dirham comes directly from drachma.
No, second intermediate kingdom period, there was coinage used. There was pieces of silver that were used.
Not the dirham coins. That's my point.
Not the dirham coins, right?
Yeah,
dirham linguistically, I know. Dirham linguistically refers to weight within any sort of Arabic lexicon that you appeal to. I can show you 2 right now.
No, it refers specifically to those coins. You can use other terms for it. They would not have used those terms in Joseph's time.
They would not have used the terms in Joseph's time. They would not have used. They would not have. So the Prophet Muhammad can't tell a story saying that Joseph was basically sold for a couple pieces of weight or a couple pieces of silver, and you can use these terms interchangeably, and it's not going to denote the same exact thing.
So why can't he say that? Why does he use a term that comes from a later Greek coinage term?
Dirham means weight in Arabic. Search it out.
So let's go to a lexicon then. So let me pull this up in then. So
no problem. I'll show you right here. Okay.
So let me pull up that surah here. What was that again? Okay, so we're going to.
While you're pulling that up, and are you? I'm still not really getting the force of this argument. Are you saying this is a miracle or like?
I'm going to show you why, but I haven't been able to show my screen to bring any sources.
Well, I'm like, let's just say that Muhammad knew something that would have been really, really hard to know or difficult to know. It wasn't common knowledge or something, right? I'm assuming that this is going to be evidence for Islam, and on your view, right?
Yeah, we would say this is evidence. We would say we're making an accumulative case, right? We're going to use inductive reasoning. We're going to use the principle of IBE. We're going to try and come to the most plausible explanation.
That's fine. And are you saying this is a miracle, or are you just saying like?
I would say this is the Prophet Muhammad who had access, right, to ancient resources, to ancient data that we don't have, right, or that we can't pinpoint contemporary to his time. And we're only finding out this information, and we're only finding out this data by modern day archaeological studies, modern day epigraphical studies, modern day paleographical studies.
Again, I'm asking a very specific, like, what is the hypothesis and what is the prediction that's being yielded?
Hypothesis.
Like, are you labeling this a miracle, or are you just saying Muhammad knew stuff that was hard to know? That's a really important distinction, and I'm just trying to understand.
I got you. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he knew things that were nearly impossible to know contemporary to his time. Okay, without the access to modern linguistic studies, without access to the
Great. Okay.
graphical studies, and
That's helpful.
studies,
That's helpful.
no one could
Thank
have
you.
known
Okay.
this in 17th. No problem.
Let
So
me
can
pull
I
up my
share
screen here.
please?
Hold on, I'm going to put up my screen because I got the lexicon up.
Okay, sounds good.
So Durham only appears in that place that one time. But I mean, as for weight, this is the word for weight. And it's used multiple times throughout the Quran. So no, Durham, again, as scholars have pointed out, Durham refers to the coin that comes from the Greek drachma.
Where does it say that?
That's the scholarly consensus on this.
It occurs only once darham, the translation of those. Where's the scholarly consensus?
I can start pulling up scholars if you're going to challenge that. I don't have them right now.
Okay, that's fine. You can bring that at a later time. It's fine. But
well, do it right now. I'll just pull up the tafsirs if you want to do that.
Can I share my screen real quick so I can show you from Lisan al-Arab and then so I can continue with my claim?
Hold on, I'm pulling up tafsirs now because you wanted that.
No problem. You said I don't have it now, so instead of...
Well, I was getting them. Okay, so 20 silver coins. This is Ibn Abbas. Okay. It's translating them as coins. It's telling us this is coins they were using. So this is not about the weight of some sort of silver. It's about coins.
They sold them for a paltry price. Yes.
Yeah, dirhams. Here it is, right there. Again.
Forms of weight. So here I'm going to show you from.
That's not what it says. Where does it say forms of weight here?
I got you. Just look at my screen, please.
I'm putting it up. So wait. So So Ibn Kathir, Ibn Abbas, they're all wrong about this.
Dirham. All right, the root of the word, dal, ra, ha, mim. All right, this word linguistically means weight of something valuable. All right,
so if we're saying,
okay, I'll show you right here. Just give me share screen, please.
Okay, I can go right to this, and it says this is the word.
So you're not letting me show my sources, but we're looking at your sources.
I'm looking at what the Quran actually says, and you're trying to change the meaning because you realize the Quran's an error.
No, I'm showing you a lexicon because you asked for a lexicon.
I literally have a lexicon up on the screen.
No. Exactly, but like this is not something that's giving us a consensus, like what you said. All right, and there's no pinpoint saying that this is referring to the Greek coinage or anything like that. So if you could allow me to share my screen, please, Mr. Mike.
This is your last chance, and then I'm going to move on to some other stuff. We're going to run around this.
Okay.
So this is blurry.
I'm trying to provide. No problem. I'll give you right here. So right here, dirham. Very simple. The word linguistically means weight of something valuable. Darham. This is Lisan al-Arab. Right here.
And where does that come from, though?
Darham. Whenever we say what the Arabs were using, like any sort of phraseology or terminology,
that comes from the Greek, though. That's the point.
That's just because there's a correlation doesn't equal causation. Right?
Yes, it does, because we know that's a transliterated word that comes from that. So that's what it means in Greek.
No problem. Can I get back to my original point if we have matters of dispute on this? Okay. So this is Moses and Pharaoh in the Bible, Quran, and History by Maurice Bucali. This is where he breaks down this specific claim. So he says, we have noticed that the word Pharaoh here designates where he's going over the biblical narrative. Can I finish reading my source, please?
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
What was the name of the book?
Ancient
Moses and
Pharaoh in the Bible, Quran, and History. Pharaoh in the Bible.
So I'll get the book.
No problem. So he says, we noticed here that the word Pharaoh here designates a sovereign of Egypt. We know that such a designation was right in the time of Moses, but modern linguistic studies have shown the meanings of the word in older times. Pharaoh began to point out, indicate the great house. That was the residence of the sovereign during the Old Kingdom, circa 2400 BC. Later, the word designated the person of the king himself, but not before Amenhotep IV. Right, circa 1370 BC. So circa 1370 BC is the first time we see that this word Pharaoh starts shifting its meaning to refer to a sovereign of Egypt, right? Therefore, in the biblical narration, here the use of Pharaoh is an anachronism. Under the rule of Hyksos, there was no Pharaoh. Very likely, the biblical writer used the word Pharaoh because such was the custom this time. This is the interpretation that you offered, which is You know, it's
that's
right?
how it is in
It's
Hebrew. But
something.
I mean, if we're
I
going to
gotcha.
use the Egyptian word, why is it using the transliterated of the Greek word for one and not para?
Let me finish, please, and then.
Well, no, I have a question. You need to answer the question.
Yeah.
So, if this is supposed to be him being historically accurate, why is the author of the Quran using the transliterated Greek word for one and not the ancient Egyptian word?
Why is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or why is the author of the Quran using the translation of the Greek for one specific word?
For Pharaoh, yeah, because it's coming. The Arabic word, as I pointed out, comes from, just like Durham, comes from the transliteration of the Greek word. That's where we use the term Pharaoh from. But if you're going to use it directly from the Egyptian, you would not be using this word. That's the point.
Okay,
he's using a much later term.
That claim, but even then, if you say that there's some sort of resemblance between the Greek form of this word and the Arabic form of this word, it doesn't mean that one is taking from the other.
Well, hold on. Let's go on that. Let's go on that. So translating, literating words into different languages is important, according to you, for the Quran, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
no, we're talking about title.
Well, when words move across languages, they change meaning though a little bit and set pronunciation as well, right?
Sure, it can. Yes.
Okay, so why is this then a problem for the biblical account when we know that when it goes into Hebrew, that word just means a general ruler of Egypt? Same when it goes into Greek. Same when it goes into English. Same when it goes into Arabic.
Yeah, but in ancient Egypt, whether we're talking about the Middle Kingdom period or the Second Intermediate Kingdom period, it did not mean a ruler, right? That's only in the New Kingdom period. Right? Only in the New Kingdom period is when it shifts in meaning and it starts referring to a sovereign.
So for the Quran to be accurate, so according to you, the Quran is accurate because it's using the correct terminology of the day.
Exactly. The Quran is using the correct, right? The Quran is providing for a distinction and titleage applied to the different rulers.
I got you. So what's the Egyptian word for king?
Niswat.
So why doesn't it say use that in the Quran?
It's the titleage. It's the titleage.
So why does what does it use Malik?
Niswat is used for king. Yes.
So what does the Quran say though?
Niswat. Yeah, the Quran says Malik.
Okay, so that's the thing though. It's not using the correct Egyptian terminology then.
No, the Quran is using the correct title. Right? Malik, if Malik is equated to Niswat, then the Prophet Muhammad can use this. Right?
Okay, so what would be the correct title then? Because now we're getting confused. Because again,
it's king. The title is king.
Okay, so it can. So when words move across language, they can change meaning, right?
It can, but not in this case, not in this scenario.
What do you mean not in this case? That doesn't follow.
Niswat means king, right?
Yeah, it's not using that term though. That's the problem.
Yeah, but it denotes the exact same thing. So if the Quran is speaking on an ancient story of ancient Egypt and speaking about the moon, and the Quran doesn't use the exact same word for moon within the ancient Egyptian, do you want the entirety of the story of Joseph and the entirety of the story of Moses to be in ancient Egyptian language? No. But
if you're going to claim it's a miracle, if you're going to claim this is knowledge that only Muhammad could have known, that only God could have known, yes, you actually have to use something that's going to be more than a mere title in Arabic.
I got you. The Quran was revealed to the Arabs, right? The Quran was revealed for mankind, but it was revealed in the Arabic tongue. And first of all, originally, it was something that the Arabs were speaking, and it's something that could basically give the Arabs some sort of familiarity. If the Quran just narrates the entirety of the story of Joseph or the story of Moses in ancient Egyptian language or hieroglyphic or whatever it may be, right, then that wouldn't be substantial. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the titleage and distinction in titleage applied to the different rulers in the different times. So if you could allow me to show one more source, and then we can continue going back and forth, please. Because I just wanted to conclude from this book. So this is the conclusion in this book on page 240 or 216. The other page that we looked at was page 44, I believe. And if you want me to go back to it so you can screenshot it, perfectly fine. All right, where Maurice Bukhari says right here, and that at the time of Joseph, the king of Egypt was not yet Pharaoh, as the Bible says. As far as these 2 points are concerned, the Quranic text is in close conformity with the reality of the time of Joseph, while a biblical author or a copyist wrote his narration using the language of his time. At the time of the Quranic revelation, there was no human knowledge of these two facts, as we have explained. So people who study ancient Egyptological linguistic studies, people who study the ancient epigraphical data, the archaeological data, are they saying that this is something that wasn't known in the time of the Quranic revelation?
Okay, so now are you done now? Or is this your conclusion?
Yes, sir. You can go ahead.
Okay. Let's go back to the points I've already made. If it was actually doing that, it's doing it all wrong. For example, not a statistical analysis, because we talk about the king and king/Pharaoh of Joseph's time, not comparable to Genesis, and not a big deal at all there. But again, it's not using the right terms because it's using later Greek terms that have been translated into that. So this does not even actually follow. It's getting the wrong terminology for the coinage of the time. It's getting the wrong terminology for Pharaoh at the time. How is this a miracle if it's just using later Greek terms? And again, using them in such a minimal amount wouldn't even be statistically statistically significant is the point.
Okay. So those are your counterpoints that I'm writing them down.
It's not, my counterpoints are it's using later Greek terms and it's not using something that's statistically significant.
Yeah, gotcha. It's not statistically significant because the Quran highlights Moses' story and the specific transgressions of the ruler in that time to a higher degree, maybe because there was more significance behind the story, right? And whenever it comes to narrating the story, the people would have had some sort of familiarity to it, whatever it may be. But the Quran uses the word Pharaoh, I believe, around 100 times. All right, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
It talks about the Pharaoh in Moses' time a lot more.
A lot more, exactly. And if the Quran is providing for distinctions in tutelage, like why do you think that the Quran didn't use the word Pharaoh in the time of Joseph, even though the Bible uses the word Pharaoh in the time of Joseph? I'm just curious.
It's quite because again, it only talks about the Pharaoh of Joseph's time so little that there's not be enough for it to be even used in a variant sense. It just says the king. Anyway, move on. Like for example, if I just said like the king of Egypt once, you don't know if versus I gave you like a monologue where I'm going to use different terms, that would be significant there. Or if I only used it like king, for example, and like over the course of reading like 12 or 13 pages of text, that would be significant. But if I only use it in a brief summary, or I'm only going to bring up the term like 6 times, that's not statistically significant is my point.
But there's still a precise distinction in tutelage, right? We can agree to disagree. No, that's fine. So
then isn't the Pharaoh of Moses called king though, right?
The Pharaoh of Moses called king in the Quran? No,
yeah.
It's not.
Are you sure? I thought that was the case.
No.
Let me look it up here.
No.
But again, notice this is not statistically significant. It's only 6 versus how many times with the Pharaoh of Moses, that is.
It's providing for an accurate distinction in tutelage applied to different ways in different times. Now, if you're telling me that this story is shorter than the other story, or that this story basically doesn't give as much significance to the king in the time of Joseph, then it's not really an argument to rebut. It's just your own assumptions and you saying that, the Quran should speak about the exact same to the exact same extent. It should speak about the same ruler, or it should speak about these different rulers and basically invoke them at the exact same amount or exact same rate, which is just
for it to be a miracle, it needs to actually be significant. That's the point. If it's such a low point, then it could just be by random chance is the point. That's an equally likely explanation based on that. It doesn't prove anything is the point.
At the time of the Quranic revelation, there was no human knowledge of these two facts, as we've explained. This is what modern day people who are studying epigraphy.
You didn't address what I just said, though.
Modern linguistic studies. I did address what you said. You're saying that that's a false assumption on your end. You're saying that if this is to be profound or anything, it has to use the exact same amount of reference to this specific ruler.
No. That's not my point. That's not the argument I'm making.
You're saying to make it significant. To make it significant.
No.
Wait.
Hold on. Let me clarify my point here. Okay. The point is, if you want to claim that this is an objective miracle, there's no way anyone could have had this exact same statistical amounts in each case. If you want to make that claim, you actually have to show that it's statistically significant in the amount that it would show. Otherwise, it can just be explained by random chance. This is sometimes what we see in sociology. It's called the p-value. Can you actually show me a mathematical model that shows the p-value is less than 0.0001 or something?
Okay, nice. So if we don't have any sort of sages, any sort of church fathers who are living in Alexandria, Herodotus, any of these guys who properly and accurately give us a distinction in tutelage applied to different rulers in different times, and the Quran is the first book, as minimal as you may say it be in the case of Joseph.
Can you answer my question?
That wasn't a question. You didn't lead it off with a question.
Like, can you show this is beyond just random chance? Is my point.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. Right? I'm saying that this is not something that was known. This is not something that was professed. This is not something that was contemporary knowledge to the Prophet Muhammad to provide for this distinction and tutelage applied to different rulers in different times. If you disagree with that, right, I just showed you different.
Who else did you cite besides this Maurice Bossiel person?
I got you. So right here, if you want to see.
Hold on. I still want my question. How can this? No, go back to my question. How is this not random chance? That's my point.
How is this not
When you
random
have,
chance?
if you only have it mentioned like 6 times, okay, that is not statistically significant.
Okay, maybe if it was, but what criterion? Like, so how much does he have to mention the king of?
It would need to at least be a third of what's in the Bible.
At least a third of what's in the Bible? What do you
At
mean?
least
A third of what's in the Bible. So just because, let me get this straight. So just because the Quran is not using the word king enough in the time of Joseph's story does not mean it amounts to a proper distinction and titlage applied to different rulers in different times, even though that's exactly what it's doing. Like really, Mike? Like, I don't get this thing.
you don't get it. Okay, so let me explain it to you. So if, for example, like if you're going to flip a coin, for example, it's going to be heads or tails, for example. Okay. If you do that, for example, if you do that 73 times, the odds of it always being heads, exceptionally rare. However, it's very likely in that 73 times, you could get 6 or even 10 in a row where it's just heads. That's the point. That's just using basic statistics. Given that when it comes to the Quran, it's not going to follow that's statistically significant.
I got you. That's fine. You can hold to it not being statistically significant.
Do you agree that if I flip a coin 73 times, the odds of me getting 6 in a row that are heads or tails is likely? You disagree.
Yeah. Let's wait. With this example you just bring up, with this example that you just bring up, I agree. But I'm saying I disagree with your conclusion that you're drawing from it. I disagree with the conclusion.
If you agree with the example, then you have to agree with the conclusion. This is not statistically significant.
I don't believe your example is analogous to the situation that's happening within the Quran.
Yes, it is. Because if I flip a coin, for example, 73 times, the odds of me getting 73 right, or sorry, that's not the correct term, heads, for example, or tails, incredibly unlikely. But in that 73 times, the odds of me getting 6 in a row that are either heads or tails, very likely. In fact, that's expected to happen. Okay. So given that, how can you say this is a miracle when I could just flip a coin and get the exact same result?
No, I say it's a miracle because we make an accumulative case and we look at the specific statements of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And if here, right, we have ancient, basically hieroglyphical data, modern linguistic studies, and they're saying that this word Pharaoh was never used to refer to a sovereign in the time of Joseph, but they say that this word was used to refer to the sovereign in the time of Moses. And I see this accurate distinction and titlage applied to different rulers in different times, as minimal as it may be, even if it was 3-4 times. I would still say that this is something profound, because if the Quran used the word, why isn't the Quran using the word Pharaoh in the time of Joseph? You didn't give me an exhaustive account for this. Why isn't the Quran using the word Pharaoh in the time of Abraham?
Because again,
now, why is the Quran only using the word Pharaoh in the time of Moses, whenever we do know historically this is when the language shifted? This is when the meaning shifted.
It's a statistically significant issue. You're not listening to what I'm saying. If this can come about from random chance, that's not a miracle.
Okay,
random chance. If you can, but this is not a miracle. This is not evidence for Islam. But notice what you just said. If you acknowledge,
how are you like the statistical significance thing is important, because how are you ruling out the idea that there is a naturalistic explanation, like some sort of oral tradition that was around talking about these things, or any sort of explanation out there?
Okay, so if we're appealing to some sort of magical oral tradition, right, that's supposed to be contemporary to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, I would want to see evidence for this, right? So that's why I'm saying, do we have any sages? Do we have any?
I can posit, hold on, Ian, I can posit this because I can argue that the prior probability that there's some sort of oral tradition going on about this is higher than the prior probability that this is some sort of a miracle.
So then, okay, but that's under what sort of faulty presuppositions, right? If you're presupposing that the Prophet Muhammad couldn't have had any sort of divine
I didn't say that, did I? Pay attention to what I'm saying.
Because you're saying that's going to be more statistically
okay, pay attention to what I'm saying, Ian.
That we can offer a naturalistic.
Okay, then repeat back to me what I just said.
You said that if I can basically offer an account of statistic probability and saying that there's the chances of the I'm not going to reiterate it word for word, but I'm going to try. Okay, I'm going to give you what you.
I don't need you to be word for word. I just need you to actually capture.
I am. You're saying that it would be more statistically probable. Basically, your point is I
didn't say statistics. What's the defeater to my statistical probability has nothing to do with this.
Dan, please let me finish. Well, if you keep interrupting,
I'm correcting you.
Okay, so you're telling me to repeat what you're saying. I'm trying to repeat the general themes that you were giving, and then you're just interrupting me when I haven't even finished my first sentence. Okay, so you're basically asking, what's the defeater to my position if I say that this was an oral tradition that was being passed down and that came into the Prophet Muhammad's hands over that of it being some sort of divine revelation? Why do I have to grant it some sort of divine revelation, right? Versus I can just say it's an oral tradition that was floating around. That's not the point that you were trying to make?
No.
Okay, if you want to make it again, go ahead. But this whole like repeat what I said.
I didn't
forth.
say, and I didn't tell you to repeat what I said. I was gut checking with you because I wanted to see if you actually understood and listened to what I said, and you didn't. So that's fine.
Nice. So can you
again? I'm asking you, how is it the case that you're ruling out a naturalistic explanation, even if there is no evidence for this oral tradition that could explain this? Why is it the case that the prior probability that that's the case, that hypothesis is true, is so marginally lower or higher, whatever you want to say, than the hypothesis that this is some sort of like a retrojecting historical miracle?
Maybe with one example of this historical miracles, your argument could check out. Maybe with 2 or 3, but with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we go on and on and on and on, and we make an accumulative case. We say that the Prophet Muhammad knew the distinction and titles applied to different rulers in different times. He knew about the ancient hieroglyphical prayers that the people used to use to invoke, to deify their authoritative figures and rulers. He knew about the ancient sort of punishments that were ascribed in specific times. He knew about how more vehemently and grotesque the punishments came to be in the New Kingdom period. He knows about in the New Kingdom period how the kings were being exalted and they were claiming deity for themselves.
Yeah, okay. So that's fine. Does this all have to do with Egyptian knowledge?
I'm getting to my conclusion, Dan, please. I'm getting to my conclusion.
Does this all have to do with
I'm not cutting you guys off when you guys are speaking, but I constantly keep getting cut off. Okay, that's the problem. All right, we're not going to get our points across if I keep getting cut off.
You have cut us off, sir.
To conclude, well, I've tried my best not to, and I
appreciate it.
Well, look, you can rattle off all the examples.
It's not rattling off.
I'm asking you a question. We can save time.
Conclusion. You're telling me
are all of these examples going to be like Egyptian knowledge specific?
No. We can go to ancient Mesopotamia as well.
Okay.
Well, I got a question. So if somebody were to only use the word king for some sort of ancient ruler before the New Kingdom, would that be evidence that they were somehow divine?
No, but if they provided an accurate distinction, right, in titleage, and if they didn't use mixed match, if they didn't use king, and if they didn't use pharaoh,
you mean like Plutarch?
If they didn't use both terms, then it would be more profound, right? If they're using both terms, like in Genesis chapter 46, Joseph summons the Pharaoh, or Joseph calls upon the Pharaoh, right? And in Genesis 12:18, Abraham calls upon the Pharaoh. You see that there's mixed match language that's being used in the book of Genesis, and so on and so forth.
So they have to use the mixed match language, is what you're saying?
No, they have to provide for an accurate distinction, right? They can't just use. I can't just say Pharaoh and Abraham talked to Pharaoh and Abraham talked to the king, and Joseph talked to the Pharaoh and Joseph talked to the king, and Moses talked to the Pharaoh, and say that there's an accurate distinction being noted here. Right? I know that the Bible does use the word king in the time of Joseph.
It uses it interchange. No, hold on. It uses it because, again, it's just a term there. So what I'm saying, though, is like you need to actually like show why this is statistically. But sorry, I'm starting interrupting, Than. I'm going off. Go ahead, Than. What were you going to? I'm trying to steal the show
at this point.
Okay. Do you want to go into the ancient Mesopotamia? Did you want sources from Thames and Hudson and some other?
No, again, you need to explain why this is a miracle. You've not gone over the random.
You just went back. Than said, "Is there any other miracles other than?"
I'm just curious about what the data set is, because that's relevant.
Okay.
The statistical significance question is still important, though. Right.
Yeah, and I told you, Than, it's not based on one form of evidence. It's based on an accumulative case of multiple forms of evidence to bring weight to the scale in my conclusion. All right. And I'm making an inductive case.
You still need like a mathematical model.
I'm not making a deductive case. I'm making an inductive case. Okay.
That's the whole entire point of asking.
So I'm trying to put weight on the
model.
Scale. Yeah.
No. The fact that you told me that you're not making a deductive case tells me you don't understand our objection.
Yeah, so your objection
are not.
I have to provide for a deductive case when I'm showing you that this is something.
Where did we say anything about a deductive case?
I'm confused from what you're saying. Go ahead. Repeat yourself.
We're asking for some sort of a mathematical model and a p-value so that we can see statistical significance, such that we can actually demonstrate through probability that this is much more likely to be a miracle than some naturalistic explanation.
So I can give you a syllogism if you'd like, but mathematical
values.
But mathematical values is not something that someone can really construct. Like that's.
Look. I'm sorry. Hold on. What? Mathematical values are not someone can get. Absolutely, you can.
To be fair to Ian, I'm assuming what he means is like on the fly.
Wait, do you provide?
Yeah, I'm not expecting you to do that on the fly. Yeah, that'd be ridiculous. No, I'm saying like that is something that you should do. So that way you can actually demonstrate this, because without this,
But you
Sport.
could just easily retort and say this is arbitrary. You could easily retort and say,
No, it's not
what's
arbitrary.
what's granting my theory? Or even if I had access to 100, or even if the Prophet Muhammad had access to 100 historical miracles, right? You would still say it's more plausible that he had some sort of oral tradition, naturalistically explained. He had oral traditions coming to
No,
him.
I am eliminating. I'm taking out of my background knowledge the fact that I think Islam is true, and I'm coming at this from a neutral position, right? And I'm saying, apart from anything that should tell us the prior is high, or apart from any statistical significance, right? There's not really a good reason to think that the prior probability that Muhammad is actually giving a genuine miracle here is going to be high enough, such that like the posteriors can be.
Well, we've scratched the surface on the amount of evidences that I could bring.
But here's the
thing: it doesn't seem like you guys are trying to rudimentarily go through these evidences.
No.
I'm
not going to expect you to give up. Okay,
please. Let me just say this. Okay, here's the thing: if what you're using can easily be explained away naturally in a far simpler way, this is not evidence. This is not a freaking miracle, as God Logic just said in the chat. All this is you just finding things you think are cute and interesting and running wild. This would be like me and like saying Christianity is true because Abraham knew about certain kings in the Bronze Age, like the coalition of kings. That can be argued that's at best can be argued for reliability, not truth. So what you're doing, hold on. What you're doing is you're trying to argue this is true. And I'm saying that could have been known through random chance. Likewise, I can say that the reason Moses knew about that time in Abraham is because that was a reliable oral tradition handed down.
A reliable oral tradition handed down? Not divine revelatory information that was given by God?
No, reliable oral traditions handed down to Moses, yes.
So Moses received oral traditions from that trace back to Abraham?
Of course.
What's the evidence for this?
Have a good day, man.
And
have a good day.
I'm not going to keep doing it. We're not Muslims. We don't think that. Oh my
God, this is, guys. So just think about this. If I flip a coin 73 times, okay, that's how many times we talk about the Pharaoh of Joseph. Okay, the odds of me getting heads 73 times in a row, exceptionally rare. The odds of me getting 6 in a row in that time, exceptionally likely. The Quran only mentions the king/Pharaoh of Joseph 6 times. Compare that with the biblical data, we would expect that kind of ratio. That's why it's not statistically significant. And if you're going to have been studying this your whole life and you don't get a p-value, like if you're going to do this kind of mathematical argument for the truth of Islam, set a p-value. If you can't get to that, you don't have evidence for Islam. I'm not going to keep going in circles. And he kind of gave away it all there at the end. Notice what he said at the end. Oh, if you can explain all this away with oral traditions, you're never going to be convinced. To paraphrase him. Yeah, exactly. You just gave the goose away. You admitted all this can be explained away by oral traditions. You don't have an argument then.
I don't even understand. Like, if this is a miracle, then what are you doing with like Christian miracles?
No, I know. Well, I'm also thinking, and I didn't get that. What about the Quran saying that crucifixion existed in time of the Pharaoh? He never addressed the whole dirham issue. He just said, well, that could mean weight. That's not the Arabic. We point out it's not the Arabic word for weight. So this argument fails us too. Like, so the Quran can't get the terminology right there, but we should trust it as a miracle and it gets the terminology right there in a completely non-significant way. This is absurd. All right, we'll do some super chats and we'll go to the next guest. Do you all ever hold Muslims to explain what people follow? Do you all ever hold Muslims to explain what people follow the Psalm, since it was a book of law from Allah? Yeah, we bring that up and they don't really have a good response to that. Isaiah 13 is often used by skeptics to show God is immoral. What is your rebuttal and sources you would use to support this? What is immoral in there? I don't know what's
I'm trying to find it.
I don't have Isaiah memorized. Judgment on Babylon. Well, why would it be immoral if this is judgment that's going to come upon them? Now, also have to remember, judgment in the Bible is not necessarily God directly doing stuff. It's also God allowing bad stuff to happen to people. So that could very well just explain what's going on there, if there's something you're upset by it. Please have Than do a formal debate on Islam soon. Well, when they agree to debate, I'm sure. I've been trying. So he's ready. Whenever they want to do it, let's do it. Muhammad appears in John 1:1. You see, This is the proof, yes. Hi, Patristic Pillars is doing a mock debate with some listeners. I'd argue that John 3:16, as it goes against their belief of salvation. Is there a point that you would raise?
I have no clue what's being talked about
There's
here.
so much context missing here, man. Sorry, Bronca. I have no... we don't know what debate that is, man. Full-blown Muslim lying about the coming of Christ. Yep. Moses sinned when he killed an overseer, when he struck the rock in anger. Yep. I was going to get to that, and he just panicked and tried to change it to Deuteronomy, because that's what happens. Thank you for the very generous super chat. Islam is true because Muhammad was trustworthy redeemer. He said if he was a false prophet, Allah would cut his aorta. When he left the worldly realm, he was complaining that he felt like his aorta was being cut. Therefore, Islam must be true. Yeah, well, there you got an accurate prophecy there. Love it. Someone will say nonsense if he speaks fast. Yeah, they're just trying to keep go.
Yeah, I'd love to actually like see the argument fleshed out more, but like not at 100 miles an hour.
And if you're going to do that, and you're doing it because he's trying to get through a lot of stuff that we are going to catch him on, that he didn't want us to catch him on. All you did was show Momo borrowed from every religion is the reason he's so even from gods from Egypt, like Idris. Yeah, good point. I mean, this doesn't mean anything. If the Quran talks about the accusations from Muhammad's opponents that he's just repeating tales of the ancients, that's going to destroy a lot of the arguments that he was doing any sort of historical miracles. David Wood, our friendly neighborhood philosopher. Mike Jones, an angry neighborhood philosopher. Draw your own conclusion. It's just me, man. You're running from Aeon, you see? Yes, totally. Had realist Muslims say the resurrection isn't most parsimonious explanation, and we can prove Moses existed through archaeology. I brought up evidence, and they rejected everything. I brought up you, and they said you weren't right. Okay.
What is a realist Muslim?
I don't know what you're asking here, patriotic. So can't really help you there. You'll need to explain what you mean. Thank you for becoming a channel member, Carrie, and gifting 20 memberships. Much appreciated. Roasted, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Okay, you Muslim?
I am, yeah.
Awesome. So welcome. Would you like to try to tell us why you are convinced Islam is true?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to ask about like first the whole thing you're saying about 6 mentions versus 73 or whatever, like the whole statistical thing. I don't get why that matters at all, because like it's all just one passage, like Joseph's only spoken about in chapter 12, like nowhere else.
Exactly.
So like no, but like why does it matter if it's 6, 7? If it was like 25 times, would that like convince you or something? Because you said a third of like 75.
That would
right?
It's been a while since I did the math, but that would go over the necessary p-value to show it's not just random chance. So it could very well be one. Yeah, if he knew that kind of information, you could make that kind of argument. But such a small amount shows that it could just come about from random chance. So in sociology, it's similar. They have something called the p-value. And to get a statistically significant p-value, it has to be below 0.05.
But why
typically you'll...
But why do statistics matter if it's like one story and it's just talking about the king like 6? If it was like one time,
exactly. Well, exactly. It's just one story, as you said, and the king of Joseph is only brought up a couple times. So there's not enough. Well, hold on. It's not enough. There's not enough for the author of the Quran, which I would say is Muhammad, to have actually spoke enough about that to know if he really did know there was a true distinction there, or if he just had said it minimal amount of times to be statistically significant.
So you're saying he could have just guessed it. It could have just been a shot in the dark and he got it right.
Yeah. Given that low amount. Yeah. Not statistically significant. Again, flip a coin 73 times. There's an odd you'll get 6 in a row very easily.
Any number of non-miraculous explanations are on the table, right? Because there's tons of different hypotheses on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I mean, y'all can like think that, but that's whatever. I want to move on, but
okay,
yeah, just like in general, like all the non-Muslims' account of Prophet Muhammad's life don't make any sense to me. Like I don't see why he couldn't be sincere. Like he endured 13 years of persecution and whatever, And like
That's
Christians
fine.
will say like he just wanted money and power and women and whatever. But that doesn't make any sense because like he was offered all those things in Mecca when he was persecuted and he turned it down for his message. Like it was not very expedient to be a Muslim. Like they even got like exiled at one point and were boycotted. So I don't see like what benefit why he would do this. Like if he
you can be sincerely wrong. He may have thought he was actually a prophet. I think something happened to him in a cave. He thought originally it was demon possession, and then later someone convinced him it was an angel. So hold on, let me finish. So that was the first thing he said coming out of the cave. He thought a demon had possessed him.
Wait, what were you saying?
The first thing Muhammad thought was that he was possessed by a demon.
That's not a thing, no.
What do you mean?
It never said demon anywhere. That's not true.
That's in there. Yeah, he thought in the cave of Hira it was a demon. Yeah, and then he comes out his wife. What are you talking about?
There's no demon narration. That's just genuinely not true.
It's in the Sirah literature.
Which Sirah literature?
The Sirah of Ibn Asaq.
Do you mind pulling it up?
Yeah, I can pull it up here in a minute. Let me find it. I got to get it all up here. So give me a minute here. It's well known that it was thought to be an actual demon. That he thought he he became demon possessed.
So if that were true, why was he like sad? Because the second revelation didn't come until a month after. So why would he be sad that it's not there? Like he got depressed because it wasn't coming back. He wanted the revelation to come back.
Well, no. At first he thought it was a demon. Then his wife Khadijah, and I forget the name of the Christian, convinced him that he was a prophet. Yeah, Wadaka. Yeah, Wadaka.
Yeah, but in Bukhari doesn't say demon at all. Bukhari and Muslim.
Well, that's why I said it's in the Sirah literature, for example.
I don't believe Ibn Ishaq said that either. Can you pull it up?
Yeah, I'm getting it. 1 second here.
Okay. But even then, like, it's not always authenticated. They don't, like, if it was in Bukhari or Muslim, then that would be like a Muslim can't get out of that.
Well, yeah, but again, this is not even debated among Muslims, for example. But again, hold on. Let's get back to the actual point here. Just because Muhammad was sincere, that does not mean he's a prophet. This is not actually evidence that he's true here.
I mean, I just don't think it makes it just less likely. Like,
okay, but that's
why would people follow him though? Why would people follow him? Why would people follow him?
Well, you admitted he wasn't getting a lot of followers in Mecca when he got. Yeah, why would people follow Joseph Smith? That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but I mean, but Islam, like the way it spread in the first 100 years, like they took down the two most powerful countries at the time. One, Arabia, was like this backwater thing. Like Mormonism's like still like a fringe thing in America today. But like,
no, there's millions. What are you talking about? No, there's millions of followers.
Yeah, but like they're still like 1% or whatever. They didn't take over America or anything like that.
Roasted, if I'm hearing you correctly, and if I'm strawmanning you, let me know.
Can you repeat that again?
Say what?
Repeat that again, please.
I'm gonna let me see if I'm hearing you correctly, and if I'm strawmanning you, let me know. Imagine that I decided to claim I'm a prophet, and after I made this claim, the president declared me the chief commander of the military in America, and I'm like, yo, let's go take over all these countries. Is that going to be evidence that I'm like a true prophet?
Well, no, because he was going up against the interests of the elites and everything. Like if the president's like glazing you up immediately, then that just proves you're not doing anything deviant or like going against the status quo. But he endured all that. And he ended up being the first man in human history to unite the Arabian Peninsula. And then within 100 years, like they had from like Spain to like India. So I'm just saying like there's no, in human history, there's no precedent of a civilization like growing in that speed and that scale and ideological durability. Like the only other contenders were like the Mongols, but like obviously like it wasn't ideologically durable, or else everyone would be speaking Mongol right now. And then Alexander, obviously, when he died, like his whole thing came apart too. But if you look at like,
I get that, but how does this support the idea that Muhammad was a true prophet?
I mean, because it's miraculous in the sense like it's like unprecedented in history. Like only like a man of God, like a man like backed by like divine like revelation. What the
After today, wait, sorry to cut you off, but after today, man, I need to ask this question. What do Muslims mean when they say the word miracle?
Mhm.
Because like I hear a lot of miracle claims, and half of these things are not really miracles. They're just like,
No, I mean, like, listen, like, you could find a loophole for like every single one of them, right? That's my thing, but I'm sure you could. But if there are like 70, 80 of them, and you know, like they're all like remarkable at the very least, then I think that says a lot that he probably wasn't wrong. Okay, wait, can I ask something?
so wait,
Hold on.
so if
I'm
I
gonna
just
put up. I finally
just,
found the. Let me put this up. So it's actually in Bukhari, for example. So this is actually after this is narrated by Aisha.
Right.
The Allah's apostle. So this is the angel appears. Allah's apostle returned with experience. The muscles between the neck and shoulders were trembling till he came upon Khadijah. His wife said, "Cover me." They covered him, and he went into a state of fear was over him. He said to Khadijah, "Oh, Khadijah, what is wrong with me? I'm afraid that something bad might have happened to me." Then he told her the story. Khadijah said, "Nay, but this is good tidings." So Muhammad's initial thought was this was bad. This angel that appeared was bad, which would
Never
be
said anything
deemed
about
demonic.
a demon, though.
What is a bad angel?
What?
What's a bad angel?
You never said anything about a bad angel either, though.
What's a bad angel?
I mean, like, if you're talking about like if you could bring up the Bible too, that doesn't help your case. I mean, Daniel was afraid. Jacob had his hip broken, and you know
they don't say
it
something
doesn't say it
bad
was a
happened.
demon.
It doesn't say there was something bad that happened to them. That's the problem.
But that doesn't say demon though. That
Well,
you
I'll
said
get
you
the
said
next source.
But even then, after like 23 years, this is just like the first time because he didn't know. I mean, that's how all the prophets in the Bible are too. So this would just cancel out Christianity, though.
Well, no, here's the problem: is that going back to the main thing. This is all about just showing. Because you said, "Well, he was sincere," and I'm like, "Yeah, he could be sincere and sincerely wrong." I agree. Something probably happened to him. We just say it's a bad angel, aka a demon.
Wait, I have a question, right? So you think Satan spoke to him?
What's that?
Is your position Satan spoke to him?
Or a demon? Yeah, or a demon, one of Satan's minions.
So a demon confirmed the Bible.
No. That's not what we said. We did not say all the Quran came from the demons. We said that he initially had a demon appear to him, and then we would argue the Quran is a mixture.
Why would a demon promote monotheism, though?
Well, that's exactly what Satan does, man. Satan does not just tell you 100% falsity. He mixes in some truth and some falsity to lead you astray, because you can never convince someone with total falsity. People would reject that.
Yeah, that's like kind of a big theme in the Bible, right? Satan uses truth and twists it.
Mm-hmm. I have another question. Right, y'all like use like Muslim and Bukhari all the time to like try to disprove Islam and whatever. But like, I wonder, how do you reconcile when you look up like the moon split? There are like a bajillion like narrations from both that like are like many witnesses saying they saw him split the moon. So
yeah, they're dated to when though? So
you don't believe any hadith is historically accurate?
I agree with Joshua Little that most of them are probably not. Even what's his name? Yasser Qadi said some may go back to the second generation of Muslims.
Yasser Qadi? No, like,
yeah.
He said Yasser Qadi didn't deny hadith.
No. You're right. He doesn't necessarily deny them. However, he acknowledges there's no way to historically verify them. He said in an interview, basically he's taking this on faith, for example.
Okay, so like do you think a demon spoke to him or not? Because you just quoted me Bukhari. Like you're using.
I'm quoting it from your sources. You for example, the reason why we said this stuff is because we're saying, hey, within your religion, this is what it would say. That doesn't mean I say objectively looking outside would take this stuff as historically accurate. However, some of that stuff I would, and you know why? It meets the criterion of embarrassment. So they're not like the whole Satanic verses episode. That fits the criterion of embarrassment as well, because you're not going to make up stuff that's going to go against.
Satanic verses inauthentic.
Says who? What are you talking about?
says every scholar. I mean, like
Why? No, they don't. For example,
no, they all
So-
do. They talk about it and they say it's inauthentic. They say it doesn't work. I think Al-Tabari.
Tabari. No, Tabari in volume 6 recounts it. Tabari volume 6, page 108.
He
recounts the
mentions it
satanic
and then
verses.
says, "Yeah, it's not authentic." He mentions it to like say it's not true.
Wait, okay, so let's pull it up then, because he recounts a whole bunch of stuff, but even with that, it has authentic chains of narrations.
No, it's inauthentic. There's no chain. That was the point.
No, there definitely is a chain.
No, there isn't.
There's actually.
Even if there was,
Do you want me to give you one?
Anyway.
Do you want me to give you one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. So there's an Isnad chain goes from Ibn Mardawa back to Ibn Abbas. There's another one that goes from Yusuf bin Hamid back to Ibn Abbas, for example. So the book, for example, that's going to talk about that is actually a very recent book. It's called Before Orthodoxy, the Satanic Verses in Early Islam. And he notes, there's several authentic chains.
Can you share your screen, please?
Yeah, let me put it up. Hold on. I'm on the wrong panel thing. There we go. So this book here, have you heard of this?
Go down. Wait, who's it? Who wrote it? Wasn't that Rushdie guy? That
Shahab Ahmed.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Have you heard of him?
I've not. No.
Okay, so I'm going to go down to just pages 2 to 3, I believe, as the quote is on. So, let's think it's right. Not too far down. Here we go. Where's that quote at? Because he just says this flat out on the introduction. So here it is. Okay, so this volume studies no less than 50 historical reports that narrate the Satanic Verse incident and that were transmitted by the first generation of Muslims. This study of the Satanic Verses incident in the historical memory of the early Muslim community will demonstrate in detail that the incident constituted an absolutely standard element of the memory of early Muslims of the life of their prophet. In other words, the early Muslim community believed almost universally that the Satanic Verses incident was a true historical fact. As the overwhelming majority of Muslim community in the first 200 years was concerned, the messenger did indeed, at least one occasion, mistake the words of Satan suggested as being of divine revelation. For the early Muslims, the Satanic Verses incident was something entirely thinkable.
Wait, so is this guy Muslim or not? His author?
I don't know. He's a scholar. He's an Islamic scholar. He's got.
Okay, I just looked it up right now. Scholars like Ibn Kathir noted that none of the narratives reporting this incident are deemed authentic. The reports are considered broken, lacking a complete connection to a companion of the Prophet. The story is absent from most authentic Sunni Hadith collections, including Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim.
Yeah, that's exactly what the scholar here is challenging.
Like, I don't know who this Shahab Ahmed guy is. Like, I just looked him up right now. He's just a modern guy. Like, he's not some theological great. He's probably just one of the ex-Muslims.
This is just you poisoning the well. Like, the earliest generation of Muslims reports this. That's the problem.
I don't deny it's in the book. Like, it's in you can find it in the books, but there's no authentic chains. Like the big scholars, like Ibn Kathir debunked it. He said it's not true. Like, I'll take Ibn Kathir over this Shahab Ahmed guy. I'm just saying.
Okay, well then you're not actually going on truth here. You're just picking and choosing what you want at this point.
Well, no, I mean, there's no great. I don't know who this Shahab Ahmed guy is though. Like,
he's an Islamic scholar. He's a legit Islamic scholar.
Shahab Ahmed.
Yeah.
Is at Harvard University.
Okay. Yeah, he's a Harvard Scholar of Islam.
Yeah, that's not like that's a Western. That's not like a Harvard's not an Islamic powerhouse of.
So your
so
evidence.
You're only going to listen. So you only the only evidence you're going to listen to is theological powerhouses. That's the methodology we're going.
No, I mean, he's just from a Western university. Like, I don't know, like what kind of agenda he has. Whether he's like
Ibn Kathir has an agenda too. I'm going to dismiss him.
The Quran is not.
Yeah, but you're doing it in internal
university. Critique. I trust Western university sources. I trust scholarship. So Islam is false.
What's your point?
I'm just doing the same thing you're doing right now. That's all.
Hold on. I don't have like the reference off the top of my head, but like I've read through like al-Tabari, all these classical scholars saying it's inauthentic. So I mean,
yeah, they said that later because you know why? This is what Shahab Ahmed points out in the book: is that later Muslims developed this idea that the prophets cannot commit major sins. So they started cleaning up the history and then saying, well, this couldn't have happened. But that's the thing, is that we don't see a lot of that in the earliest generation of Muslims. For the earliest generation of Muslims, this was just something that happened. What we see later, around the time, like a couple hundred years later, is that then Muslims start changing the history, saying, well, you know, we don't want Muhammad to commit that, so we're going to start changing it. But the earliest sources are reporting it. So the earliest, most reliable sources are reporting it. Later generations of Muslims didn't think. What's that?
I mean, it's not in Bukhari or Muslim. So I mean, I'm just asking where.
Well, it's not. Oh, it's definitely, it's in the Sirah literature, and it's in Tabari. But here's the thing: the Hadith and the Sunnah.
And
that's
Tabari?
that. Tabari reports. We already acknowledged Tabari reports it, didn't you?
Yeah, and he said it was not true. Hold on, wait.
I'm pretty sure that's not accurate.
I'm pretty sure it's
in volume 6. It's in volume 6.
Hold on, let me get the Surah Najm chapter 50, 53. 53, 19, 20. Hold on.
Okay, and again, this doesn't change anything. This is him. The earliest generation of Muslims accept this. We have authentic Isnad change, even though I don't think those are good ways. I wouldn't use that in terms of arguing for reliability, because Isnad change are absurd. Like you can make those up, and they're not even being used in the during the Sirah period. They're used by later writers, but they weren't actually being used in the rigorous sense that later, like, Hadith collectors were using them.
Can you repeat that again?
So the whole Isnad chains, they came about later. They were not being used during the days of the Sirah literature being written or prior. They start coming out later when they're collecting Bukhari and Sahih Muslim as well. So that tells us that these were later inventions.
Like Rashidun Caliphate would like store them. Like they were still scholars. They just didn't compile it into a big book until Imam Bukhari came along. But the Hadith still
According
existed.
to who? According to who, though?
Okay, I don't have the exact source off the top of my head. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. They don't exist. This is the problem with those Isnad change, is that there's a reason critical scholars think that's laughable. They don't take it seriously. Like Joshua Little, for example, who wrote his dissertation on this, will point out, yeah, no, this does not work. The reason being is because you could easily make those Isnad chains up. And
so isn't that
several of them probably were.
Because like
we don't have that.
Like, they'll say like 10,000 people from each generation orally passed it down over like the centuries.
We're not Jews.
Yeah, but you believe in the Old Testament, don't you? Know?
Yeah, but we don't believe it because we have some ridiculous Isnad chain. We have actual evidence.
Yeah, we use like scholarship and evidence to
criterion of embarrassment.
The Dead Sea Scrolls are over 1,000 years after Moses.
So
how do you know it's true? How can you trace it back to Moses?
Check out my video, The Torah is Older Than You Think. Check out my videos, Exodus Rediscovered. Check out my videos on biblical archaeology. I give a bunch of evidence there, but this is irrelevant because Isnad chain or Hadith science is absurd and not accepted as a accurate science, because it's so easy for someone to make up Hadith, copy a Isnad chain from something else, and then just use that.
Well, no, I mean, like, we look at the authenticity of each person and their character and their reliability.
Come on, yeah. And
how about the Water Hadith? How can like 30 plus people come up with the same life?
So you just kind of gave the goose away there. So with the Isnad chains are goods because these guys were we know they were morally good people, and we know that because the Hadith tell us so. Like, you see how it's circular. You're relying on the Hadith to know these guys were great, and then you use that to authenticate the Hadith. That's circular.
Well, it's beyond just Hadith. Like, it's not just Hadith that talks about the transmitters.
Yeah,
the documents and whatever.
Think about that. Think about what you just said. The Hadith chains, the Hadith are what tell you that these guys were accurate and useful and reliable. But you need that. So you're using the Hadith to verify the Hadith.
No, I mean, like, but they have after the Rashidun Caliphate came about, like there weren't a persecuted religion. Like, there was like doing scholarly work and everything. So it wasn't just Hadith. Like, people were documented and stuff. That's the reality of it. And how about the Water Hadith? You didn't answer my question, because how could 30 chains come up with the same lie? How could 30 chains?
Hold up. Let's get back to the thing. I'm not moving on to your question because you didn't deal with the question I gave up. How you said that the reason we can trust these chains is because of their moral character, but the only reason you know about their moral character is because of Hadith chains. So like it's circular.
I don't think it's Hadith that like you learn about their character though.
Okay, so then where are you learning? Like again, Shabir Ali also basically said this recently. He said you have to assume. I'm going to using his argument. You have to assume the first generation of Muslims was just perfectly moral and accurate, and that's an assumption that cannot be justified.
That's our faith.
Okay, well that's the thing. That's not actually evidence. That's you just assuming Islam is true without actually giving evidence Islam is true.
Wait, so let me ask. So you don't believe in the traditional account of the Prophet's life?
No, I think there's probably a lot of historical inaccuracies in there.
So why do you argue things like Aisha was 9 if you don't even believe it then?
Because you guys believe it, and I'm showing that's immoral if he did that. If a Muslim wants to come on here and say, you're right, I reject the Sunnah, it's late and unreliable. I'm like, great, I'm not going to bring up Aisha.
But you don't believe she actually existed or anything like that?
I don't know if she existed or not.
Yeah, but this
probably,
is better.
What?
These hadiths are still better than the Bible because they're all anonymous and made like 50 years after Jesus lived, though.
Whoa. The hadith are written down 200 years or so after Muhammad.
But we have the Isnad. The Bible authors
Oh my gosh. Okay, so if I today write a thing about George Washington and I say George Washington told Thomas Jefferson, who told his son, who told his son, who told his son, who told me, is that somehow an accurate chain now? Do you now believe it?
But hadiths weren't documented like 200 years after. Like they were still like they were still like talked about before then too. It was just compiled in a big book.
How do you know that?
Like what?
Okay, so now you need a source to show that some 6,000 hadith in Bukhari were somehow known before Bukhari wrote them down.
Well, yeah, then he has multiple, like he corroborates them. That's how.
Like, okay, yeah, he mentions a bunch of hadith that people were spreading around. Okay, but I mean, like Joshua Litta points out that in his dissertation, those were probably made up at a later point, but people just started spreading them around during the second or third generation, but they don't actually go back to Muhammad. That's his point, is that these were made up at a later point, and then you get variations of them, but there's no evidence to think they actually go back to reliable sources is his point. And it's not changed. Don't actually show that. Two reasons why. One, those are very easy to just sort of copy and paste. Oh, I have a hadith that I made up. Let me copy this as not chain from I got from so-and-so and put it on mine. Now it's reliable. And two, when you go through the Sirah literature in that time, we don't see them using the same Isnad chains that the later generations during the time of Bukhari were using. That tells us they were not actually being used in circulation. So that shows that this was a standard or a science made up at a later point.
So, I mean, how's Christianity different then?
Oh, I'll give you something. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you one of my favorite pieces of evidence for gospel reliability. So that way...
Yeah, but there's still like people like Brutes Metzger and... what was that guy's name? Bart Ehrman. They'll just say the opposite, though.
No, they've not addressed this. No, let me show you.
I have a paper coming out on this. I'm assuming you're doing onomastic congruence.
Yeah. Do you know what onomastic congruence is? Yes.
Could you tell me?
Sure. I'm happy to. Yeah. Onomastic congruence refers to the names in something. So think about it like this. So if I were to ask you to write a book about some guy living in Georgia 50 years ago, people living in Georgia 50 years ago used certain names very commonly. Like they may have used, for example, the name George more than anything else. And they may have used names like Sydney, extremely rare. So it's about the ratio of names. So when we look at the ancient world, for example, we see in first century Judea, the names Simon and Joseph were very common names. Names like Zacchaeus, Nicodemus were rare. People rarely use those names. Then we got like middle tier names, for example. So you have like middle tier names that were kind of used somewhat common, not that common, that kind of thing. So if you're going to write a work about like a biography of Jesus, you should get the right accuracy of names So you should be using Simon a lot. You should be using Joseph a lot, and you should be using like Zacchaeus a lot less. So you're following, you tracking where I'm going there based on naming ratio.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so when we go through the Gospels, for example, so Richard Bauckham started this. He notes so rare names. This is the first column. A lot of different rare names. Simon is the most popular name. Joseph. Let me zoom in a little bit for you there. Joseph is also a popular name, but as I said, Ishmael, Jacob, the name from Matthew. These are not as popular names, so they're a lot lower. So this is like the ratio of names. What they did in this study is they went through that kind of stuff and they compared it to Apocrypha Gospels, the works of Josephus. They also compared it to modern novels. And they actually ran it through a goodness of fit test here. Let me show you the results. So when they looked at modern novels, it was basically zero. People that were writing novels like The Spear or Ben-Hur, modern novels today, could not get the right naming ratio in the ancient world.
Even though they had access, by the way, to
libraries.
To the libraries, yeah.
Yeah. Apocrypha Gospels couldn't get anything above 0%. So like think of like Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Judas, this kind of stuff. Josephus's naming ratio was rounded up to 0.07, so 7%. That means if you took the ratio of names and so here, no, let me explain it this way. If you went through Jerusalem in the first century, you have a 7% and you asked 100 people their names, you have a 7% chance you would get Josephus's naming ratio. Now that was considered statistically significant based on the amount. When you went through the Gospel and Acts, 85 to 86%. It's extremely reliable. So that what this tells us is the Gospel and Acts were not like Apocrypha Gospels, not like novels. They were getting the right accurate ratio of names in the first century based on the stories they were telling about Jesus. That means they were telling us real stories about Jesus that came from real people who had names in that time. And the names are a clue. It shows us that they got the correct ratio. This is incredibly unlikely to have made up based on the control groups over here that ended up at 0%. Because when we looked at modern novels or ancient fictional gospels, they came to 0%. If the gospels were fiction, they would also be at 0%, but they were even better than Josephus was.
So your argument is that since Matthew, John, Luke, and Mark were rare names, that means they're accurate?
No.
The argument is that they get the right ratio of names. They use the most popular names correctly, mid-tier names correctly, and the correct amounts, that is, and rare names correctly in the correct amounts.
Oh, okay. But they still like contradict each other. So how do you know like?
Well, hold up. On this issue, what do you say before we get to that? How did they get that right ratio of names if they were making up stories? Can you come up with a better explanation? Because when we had the last guest, we came up with better explanations for his evidence for Islam, and he just tried to change the subject. Here, you can come up with a better explanation.
So let me get this right. There's like a percentage of people with the common names, a percentage of people with the mid-tier common names, and a percentage of people with the rare names. And you're saying in terms of the names, the gospels, like the ratio matches like how many names are mentioned in the gospels.
Let me try to make this a little simpler. There are two theories on the table, right? Your theory is that the gospels are not reliable and that they're anonymous. The gospels don't trace back to the followers of Jesus, right? Our theory is that the gospels are not anonymous and they are reliable and they do trace back to the early followers.
You're cutting out. Can you repeat that, please?
Am I cutting out, Mike, or is that?
Yeah. No, I think it was just you just repeated it because I heard you.
Yeah.
It must have been his.
So our theory is that the gospels are reliable. They're not anonymous, and they trace back to the times and places of the historical Jesus, right? Which hypothesis makes more sense of the observation that the name frequency and distribution that you would expect to see if these were genuine stories about the time of Jesus and the places of Jesus What hypothesis explains the match better?
Wait, repeat that one more time, please.
What hypothesis? Your hypothesis, they're not reliable. They don't trace back to the early followers, right? And my hypothesis, they are reliable and they trace back to the early followers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have this tight geographical and chronological range of data points that tells you here's the distribution of how names occur in this particular place at this particular time. Okay? Are people that lived and experienced things in that particular place and particular time more likely to produce literature that corresponds to the name patterns, or are people that are distant geographically and chronologically more likely to produce literature that is congruent with the name frequency?
I mean, like, I never said they were like distant, but if it's like 40, 50 years, the name patterns are going to be about the same. I don't see how this proves anything.
No. You see that Elan F, 1F category?
Elan 1, I see Elan 3. Where's Elan F?
On Mike's screen right now.
Yeah.
But like so in this paper, this isn't the paper that I wrote. My paper that I wrote with these scholars actually even further solidifies this, but the basic idea is we tested against that. So we actually have the name data from different places in time and different geographies. They do not match. So if somebody wrote the Gospels post 70 AD in somewhere else other than Palestine, the name frequencies would be different.
So to give a comparison, if you go through like the Gospel of Thomas, Judas, like these late Gospels, they don't get this type of accuracy. They use like Greek names. They use names that were not common in Judea, very popular, like very frequently. Like that's what we would expect from fictional authors, from people writing fiction.
So even if like the authors were pre 70 AD and in Palestine, how could you prove that they were like followers of Jesus or whatever?
Well, hold up. You said that this is stuff written by anonymous authors later, and you asked us what is our evidence when we were brought to talk about Isnad chains. You said, what's your evidence for believing in the Gospels? Here's right here. Here's what we have right here. These are people that were getting real stories from people who interacted with Jesus. And
there's still no chain to Jesus though. Like, okay, sure, it's in that same time and same place, but how does that prove they were with Jesus?
Okay. Here's a hypothetical scenario for you. Let's just say that there was a murder that happened 10 years ago. Okay. And there is a scientist who found DNA and was able to actually like figure out who the murderer was through DNA, but he doesn't have an Isnad sequence going back. Right. Now imagine somebody else has an Isnad sequence saying Mike is the murderer. and there is no other evidence other than this Isnad sequence. It's just a bunch of people saying, oh, I saw this, and my cousin, who's a really good man, knows me, so he said I saw this, and his brother said, who's also a really good man, knows that I'm a good man, and knows that this guy's a good man, and the chain just keeps on going 10 years into the future. Are you going to believe the person claiming that it's not chain for Mike, or are you going to believe the scientist who has like hard evidence?
But you're all assuming y'all have like DNA, like hard evidence that.
Yeah, that's in the analogy. That's the point. That in the analogy, in this world, in this hypothetical, when you have DNA evidence versus a chain, and the chain is so wonky and crazy, who are you going with, the chain or the DNA evidence?
Yeah, but like
the DNA, right?
I don't still understand like how like this is as field clad as like DNA evidence though. I'm not getting that.
Well, we're not. That's not the analogy. Sorry, I'm getting frustrated.
No,
that's not the.
Here's the thing.
We're not saying DNA evidence is equivalent to this. Okay, we're saying
that it's like it.
Yeah.
Let me explain it to you. Okay, so again, make up a story. Here's what I want you to do. You can debunk this easily. Actually, here's what I want you to do. Turn off the internet. Don't go to a library. Okay. Write a story. Okay. as long as like the Gospel of Luke. Okay. Will you get, and about Jesus in the first century, will you get the right ratio of names accurately? Can't use Google. You can't use a library. Just sit there and write a story, fictional story about Jesus, as long as Luke. So just one gospel, not even all of them. Would you get the right ratio of names? Would you use Simon a lot? Like you probably would, because now we've told you that. But would you get the right ratio of names totally? According to their analysis, when modern fiction writers, okay, the guy that wrote Ben-Hur, the guy that wrote the novel The Spear, who had access to libraries, who were trying to do this, they still got 0%. Okay? Given that, the Gospels are not in the category of fiction. They're in the category of history, because what it shows us is that they were hearing stories from eyewitnesses, real people that interacted with Jesus, and they're reporting the names. Like Simon said this, okay? Bartholomew said this, okay? And then when you take all those stories together, you get an accurate ratio of names that aligns what we see in first century Judea. That cannot come from fiction.
I mean, I don't think it's all fiction necessarily, but I don't know how it's 100% reliable either, though.
This is a real way you show reliability, not in this Isnad chain, is what we're pointing out. Isnad chains are crap. They don't prove anything. This is how you show reliability. Because again, we just came up with an alternative explanation for these Isnad chains. People can make them up. That's why we don't see them in the earlier generations of Muslims. You can't make this up, though. That's the point.
Well, that's why we have mutawatir hadith. Like if there are 30 different Isnad chains, then how can they come up with the same lie?
You can come up with Isnad chains is our point. And you can just copy these hadiths around and spread them. That's the point. But again, do you at least acknowledge this is a marker of authenticity in the Gospels?
Well, no, because because you don't actually have names of who wrote the Bible. Like it could have just been anyone. Like why couldn't they lie?
So people can just lie and make stuff up.
So wait, hold on.
People can lie and make stuff up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's what the hadiths are.
Well, no, because that's why we have weak hadith and like authentic hadith. Like if it's fabricated, we know it's fabricated. Because if there's like someone in the chain who's like known to be notorious for that, or maybe there's like a gap, or there's like
You're not seeing the issue. You literally just contradicted yourself there. People can make stuff up, but you said, well, no, these people wouldn't make stuff up because later people said they were trustworthy and those people wouldn't lie either. Like you just assume the conclusion you want.
Yeah, but hadith didn't begin like with Bukhari or Muslim or whatever. Like it was right after the Prophet died. Like the companions had it with them.
Says who? Says who?
Okay, I don't have the exact source. I'm not a polemicist guy. I don't do these debates and stuff.
Well, no. Well, look, listen, we're not trying to do gotcha. We're trying to show you how your religion has lied to you, has given you really bad evidence. Meanwhile, in Christianity, we have scientific analyses being done on the Gospels showing accuracy, reliability, something you can't get in Islam. This is how you do it.
I could find some like scientific thing like this. All this proves is that like, okay, the guy, whoever wrote it was within Palestine before 70 AD though. Like who just knew names and stuff. Like,
yeah. So my paper is still not out yet, but the new paper that is out about this also goes and shows that fictional works don't produce this. And basically, like, this is as close to a statistical proof as you can get, right? Okay, coming up with this theory. By the way, this isn't just like the one piece of evidence that we have, right? Mm-hmm. We're making a methodological comparison. You have your Isnad chains. We have genuine methodological, like historical analysis. That is the point we're trying to make here.
Right. Okay. Sure. Like, so whoever wrote this may have like knew the right proportion of names. But you're criticizing like hadith for lying and whatever. Like, how do you know these authors didn't lie either, while also just knowing the right?
Okay, let's tackle that. Do you think that so the hypothesis is somebody lied, and that is the explanation for why the name patterns are there?
I mean,
is that your hypothesis, your counter hypothesis?
I don't understand the question. Like, both can be true. Like, they can know the names and lie about a specific event or something.
Great. What is the reason that we should think that people were lying when they wrote the Gospels?
I mean, I know like Paul, like he was like, the one.
Paul didn't write the Gospels.
Yeah, I know, but whoever like had an agenda.
Okay, so stop going. So don't run to Paul. Stick to the Gospels. Why should I think the authors of the Gospels lied about any of the stories?
To like prove he's God or something.
Okay, so then people made up the Isnads to prove Muhammad is a prophet.
Boom.
So it's like your faith to believe these people were genuine, and my faith to believe that Isnad.
No, I have arguments for this. I have arguments for this. I'm just showing you that every single argument that you have against the Gospels can be pushed back onto the Muslim faith. Do you have another reason why I should think that the Gospels authors made stuff up?
I mean, don't they like contradict each other? Like with Judas, like I think.
Why can I contradict each other? Does that mean we're making stuff up?
Well, it means like they don't really know what actually happened.
Do any of the Hadith contradict each other?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, well then they're making stuff up because there's contradictions in the Hadith. And thank you. Now I don't have to bring them up. But yeah, there are contradictions in Hadith. So by that logic, we should reject it all. See the double standard happening here.
Well, they're not major, like Sahih Hadith, not major contradictions. What I meant by that, I think one Hadith said like Solomon had 500 wives. Another Hadith said Solomon had like 300 wives. That's what I had in mind when I said yeah.
Okay, so but you're acknowledging that. So then the same thing applies here. The difference is we have something here you cannot offer a better explanation for, the naming frequency. This is evidence that these are reliable stories. And of course, yeah, there's other things we can cover. This is an argument that has not been addressed, let alone refuted.
Yeah, but that's our Hadith. This is your like Bible, like our Quran, like that's traceable to the time of the Prophet.
I agree. I totally agree. And that's why we have the Islamic dilemma. Muhammad didn't know what was in the prior scriptures. That's why he claimed to confirm them and then contradicted them.
He said they're distorted in 514.
514.
Yeah.
So then he's really contradicting himself because he later in that same surah, he tells us that we should judge by the gospel and believe it.
Like, I'm talking about 68.
So I'm going to read 514. And from those who say we are Christians, we took their covenant, but they neglected a portion of what they had been commanded to uphold. So we let hostility. 513. Yeah. It just says they're distorting it. How are they distorting it?
By scripturally, by writing it, and then with their tongues as well, like misinterpreting.
With their exactly with their tongues, because later in the same surah, Muhammad tells us to judge by the gospel, to stand on the Torah of the gospel and what has been revealed to us from our Lord. So that the way we're distorting it is with our tongues, not with something else, not by changing it.
Like, all the early scholars said it was like textual as well, in addition to tongues. Is both.
Where does the Quran say that?
Well, distorted the scripture. I mean, even like 279, it says like they write, like they attribute, like woe to those.
Question then: would it make sense for me to say the Quran has been corrupted, and also that you should believe in the Quran?
What he said?
Would it make sense for me to say the Quran is corrupted, and you as a Muslim should believe in the Quran?
No, wouldn't make sense.
Exactly. So if 513 is about them textually corrupting the scriptures, why does Muhammad Allah in your religion, go on in 547 to tell us to judge by the gospel? 568, stand on the Torah of the gospel.
47 is talking about like the people at the time of Jesus, because it was talking about in the previous verse.
So Muhammad was commanded to go to graves and say, "Oh, people of the gospel, you're to judge by the gospel."
No, it said, "Let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah revealed." Like it's talking about the people back then, back in Mary and Jesus' time.
We can just run my new argument here, Mike.
I listen, man. We appreciate you coming. You have a good day. We're gonna move on to another guest. This is not getting us anywhere, man. I can't.
I'm tired, boss.
Tired, but I'm trying. Like sometimes with some of these guests, like he was really nice. I'm like, maybe we can break through to him and actually help him get out of this false religion. But it's like you start making stuff up. The Quran says it's just like I'm done. I'm like, man, where were we on super chats? Than apparently admitted Islam is true. You see? Way to go, Than. Way to admit Islam is true. Should have stopped it at the first argument. I can't even remember it now. It was so dumb. Yeah, a lot of the AN's arguments, yeah, they were bad. You guys should talk about how Islamic heaven is full of earthly desires. Yeah, that's the thing. Islamic heaven is just like a hedonistic nonsense. Yeah. Checking if SCs work without the power of Zut. What is SC? I don't know. Sorry, IP. William is pretending to be a Calvinist for the debate. Must have put that part in, and I want to stump him with a question or a verse. Sorry, Bronk, I don't know the debate, so I can't help you. Like, yeah. I wish I could, but I can't help you, and we don't know the context. For it to be a miracle that for one is used to refer to the Egyptian ruler of Pharaoh's time, you have to prove it isn't used as a personal name, which is what most scholars think the Quran actually does. Yeah, there we go as well. That's another problem we didn't even have time to get to, because I was going to bring up the crucifixion and then a couple other issues. I can't remember. I was going to bring up something else, and then that was another issue as well, because it does kind of treat Firwan as if it's the name of the Pharaoh during Moses' time, not the Pharaoh. There's no definite article there. That's the problem. God bless. Hope you guys have been doing well. Remember this Lent to thank God for Dr. Pepper. All right. Thank you, God, for Dr. Pepper. There. Meant Moses' time. Yeah, I figured. Yeah, I got what you meant. Why would a demon deny the divinity of Christ? No, good question. Exactly.
Oh, I think that's in reference to one of the guests that was like, why would Satan confirm the Bible?
Yeah. Tauberty doesn't deny it happened in the Tough series. Yeah, I didn't think he did. He kept saying it was, and I'm like, I don't remember that being in there. He just reports it. For historical dating, the Bible does not need the Quran in its chronological backbone. The Quran must be read alongside the Bible. Exactly. It did mean the last guy. Yep, I figured as much. No problem there. Your call-in is my favorite show during the week. Keep going. Previous guys, a cumulative argument is absurd. Truth shouldn't depend on stacking cases. We have resurrection. That is the truth for us. Listen, I'm okay with cumulative cases, especially if you're doing it for reliability. But if you're going to argue this proves that, like you got to be able to give me something better that cannot just be explained by statistical analysis. Like,
and it has to be real miracles. Like,
yeah. Like,
I'm actually okay with the cumulative case of actual miracles, but like pointing to like, well, how could somebody have known this? It's like very different. I'll give you a cumulative case of a bunch of alleged miracle cases, and sooner or later, when you have to keep on stacking up, well, this guy was lying and this doctor was lying for 16 years and blah 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 blah. That's when things start getting ridiculous.
They're going to make me flip a coin 73 times and record myself and put it on screen to show. Look. Oh, look, I got 6 in a row there. Boom. End of debate. All right, let's hang on here. Prophet Daniel, are you there?
Oh, hey, I remember this guy.
Yeah, you're familiar.
Hey,
I remember.
How are you?
Yeah, he was really nice.
How you doing, man? You're Muslim, right?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, I'm a Muslim, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah, you were on here a while back. I remember now. We were talking about Deuteronomy 18:18. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. What brings you back?
Actually, look, I want to really engage with you on some of the things, some of the topics, especially here. I wanted to just talk about scientific evidence being one of those layers with which you can realize Quran to be from God. But aside from this, I want to really engage with you. I just wrote up to James on MDD to get in touch with you for some possible engagements. So I'm waiting for you to respond.
I have not.
I think I want to just engage with you on good faith, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I'm willing to talk with you here, but I'm pretty busy right now in terms of debates, and I already have a bunch prepared as well as speaking and traveling. So that would, as of right now, I don't have time for that right now. But I'm willing to talk with you here, which is about the same thing.
Yeah, that's fine, no problem. If you have any suggestions for one of your teammates like God Logic to debate me, I would really appreciate that from you.
Okay.
As well.
Yeah, but you can always call into his show. I mean, he does that stuff.
Yeah, some of these things that have been really resulting from debates, like massive wins for Christianity, I believe, on Jake Brancatilla as well as on Libiano and the other guy who debated Islamic dilemma,
Daniel
Kikaju. Yeah. So I think those were massive wins from these decisive debates. So it would not be.
Wait. Who won? You say the Muslims won?
No, the Christians won.
Oh, okay. Do you have a different solution to the Islamic dilemma then?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to hear it if you're okay with that.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Is if those massive wins were realized out of those debates, I want to have a debate as well. So to do justice to the topic being discussed at that level.
Well, let's discuss it here. What's your solution to the Islamic dilemma?
Like, I want to preserve that for a massive debate.
I will give you 5 minutes to present a solution to the Islamic dilemma.
Like, for example, just now in with the previous caller, you were talking about the Quran being made, the Quran advocating for the Torah and the Injil to be a source of judgment. And Christians do imply, okay, therefore we can have our doctrinal, messages out of the gospel, out of the Old Testament, also as the true and accurate teachings. So the Quran is false. How can the Quran at the same time contradict Jesus's divinity while the New Testament approves of his divinity? And the Quran says, use the New Testament as the judge. So therefore the Quran is wrong. I mean, if that is the dilemma, then I would just say, look, those verses in chapter 5 of the Quran, they are only talking about legal judgments, like when people come with their disputes to the Prophet Muhammad. So the Quran says you can judge between them, but why do they even come to you? They have the Torah with them, so they can bring out a legal judgment for that dispute. So that judgment that Quran talks about, fahkum bainahum, it does not really apply to theology or to the doctrines of those books. So that's one of the
does the
things,
Quran say it's confirming what we have, though?
Of course, it does say that, yeah.
So like Surah 241, 447, and that's the reason we should believe in Muhammad. Surah 241 says we should believe in Muhammad because he's confirming what we have, right?
But did you at least get this point that I just brought you to the table? Like
I get what you're trying to argue. I don't think that's what the Quran says. It doesn't actually say. It only just doesn't refer to the legal aspects. It refers to all of what we have.
No, I don't think so. It's precise. It only refers to the legal aspect of the dispute.
Okay.
That people
so then let's just go to.
Towards, yeah.
Well, then I need to see where the Quran says that.
Yeah, sure.
Because I can go to Surah 241 and it just says confirming what we have.
So if you go to 41, is it 541?
Yeah, I can put it up.
Yeah, sure.
Believe in my revelations, which confirm your scriptures. Doesn't say just the legal parts of your scriptures. It says your scriptures.
Okay, I mean, keep on going where it says فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ.
Okay.
What verse is that? 40. Okay, 44 onwards, I suppose. That's where the... Okay, 43, I'm sorry. 43 is where the context is set.
Okay. So if this is the context.
No, not number 2. I'm sorry. You're looking at chapter 2.
Yeah.
I was talking about chapter 5, where it says about judgment, right?
All right. So 547?
43.
Okay. 543. Okay. But I mean, like, notice the difference, though. We're now going to a different one that clearly from 241 just says it confirms our scriptures, right? So if that's the case, that's confirming our scriptures.
Confirmation is a different area of the Islamic dilemma, of course. But here, let's talk about judgment, which probably is one of the tools used for in favor of Islamic dilemma. So it clearly says in the beginning, 43. وَكَيْفَ يُحَكِّمُونَكَ, meaning how can you judge? وَعِنْدَهُمُ التَّوْرَاةَ, they have the Torah, فِيهَا حُكْمُ اللَّهِ, and it is judgment of God. And so clearly the context is set here for legal code, legal judgments. So these verses cannot be used to sort of solidify the Islamic dilemma, because these are not doctrinal confirmations or theological confirmations. These are legislative confirmations.
So we should judge by the gospel.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go down. So this is what you're referring to. Let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it. Okay. But notice what it says right after this. This is the book of truth as a confirmation of the previous scriptures. And then muhaymin on them. Not supreme authority, but muhaymin on them. So even in this context, Allah is claiming that he's still confirming our scriptures. Same as Surah 241. So this doesn't get you away from confirmation. It's right there in the context.
No, that's fine. Confirmation is a different area. I just acknowledged it. But at least the judgment, where the Quran says use the earlier scriptures, you will not have salvation unless you established Torah as your legal code, and you will not have salvation unless you've established gospel as your legal code. That portion is not to confirm the doctrine or the theology.
What are the legal aspects of the gospel? What do they teach?
Like Jesus gave a series of amendments. For example, he amended the law of divorce. In Christianity, the only legal way of divorcing is if your woman is caught in adultery. That's the only premise for divorce in Christianity, which Christians have to abide, by the way. That's one of the amendments that Jesus provides.
Should we follow all of the legal rulings of what the gospel teaches?
Absolutely, because that's what Jesus wanted you to do.
Got it. So let's go to Luke 24. Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures and said to them, thus it is written that Christ should suffer on the third day, rise from the dead, and that repentance for the forgiveness of sins should be proclaimed in his name to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. So we are to believe legally that Jesus atoned for our sins through his death and resurrection. I can go to Matthew 28 as well.
Please, hang on.
Hold on. Matthew 28. We need to be baptized. This is a legal ruling. We need to be baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So these are legal rulings of the gospel.
I'm sorry to say this, but when the legal theme is talked about, it basically talks about trespasses between people. It's not talking about theology or doctrine. It's talking about when there is a dispute, when there's a trespassing between the two people. That's when you apply the legal coding. It's not about doctrine. It's not about theology.
Are you kidding me?
No, of course. I mean, trespassing is when legality is invoked.
You notice you just changed. It was the legal rulings of the gospel. I gave you legal rulings of the gospel, and you said, well, not those legal rulings, just the legal rulings that agree with the Quran.
That's theology, IP. You talked about baptism, that's theology.
Theology includes legal rulings for our salvation. Soteriology.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I can grant you that it's soteriology, it's salvation doctrine and all of that sort of stuff, but it's not a legal code to resolve disputes between people.
Where does the Quran say only believe in the rulings regarding legal disputes between people for the gospel?
No, that's those passages in Surah 5. They are in specific to disputes that arise between people.
Right.
And even Jesus says, why do you run behind hair-splitting business looking for ants, and you let go elephants slip through? You ignore justice.
Where does the gospel say that? Where does the Quran say that?
I mean, I just showed you 543.
It doesn't say that. It does not say to only use the legal rulings that agree with the Quran.
No, how do you judge a dispute? How do you judge a dispute? I mean, you judge a dispute by applying legal code, right?
But was there a dispute at the time of Muhammad about whether or not Muhammad was a real prophet?
It's not about prophet. Those passages in 543 onwards, they are concerning disputes.
I'm talking about the Quran as a whole, right? Because you're pointing to 5 to try to like motivate this idea that the confirmation is only about the legal proceedings or any of that stuff, right? And it's not about theology.
Passages. No, I'm talking about those specific passages because you guys do bring these passages to sort of solidify your position in favor of Islamic dilemma. So in relation to these exact passages,
okay,
what I'm saying is
I'm willing to
legal code. Yeah,
I'm willing to temporarily grant that for a moment. Do you think that the Quran is still making claims about the previous scriptures vindicating the prophethood status of Muhammad.
I don't think so.
So you don't think that the Quran says they find descriptions of Muhammad as they know their own sons in the previous scriptures?
Well, how do you understand that is the whole thing, because Prophet Muhammad's prophethood was a dispute in Mecca, and to the people of Mecca, the inferences drawn on the earlier scriptures would not apply because they were not possessing the previous scriptures. So Muhammad's prophecy was a contest in that society between the polytheists. So for them, it was a challenge, but not so much to the Jews and the Christians. To the Jews and the Christians, a simple reference is drawn that
So what is
you do find Muhammad mentioned in your scriptures. Very simple.
So what is the argument that the Quran is making to establish that Muhammad is a true prophet?
Well, as I said, which I'm willing to discuss here, there is a scientific layer to the Quran. The Quran does allude to...
That's not the argument that the Quran is making. I'm talking
No,
at the time of Muhammad to the Jews and Christians of the time of Muhammad.
To the Jews and the Christians, the Quran just says you find this prophet written in your records.
Great. So so to the Jews and Christians at the time of Muhammad, the argument is Muhammad is the next prophet. He is in continuity with the previous prophets, and you can find descriptions of him in the Torah and the Injil, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think that the scriptures are corrupted at the time of Muhammad?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. How are Jews and Christians supposed to find Muhammad in their scriptures and establish prophetic continuity for Muhammad if their scriptures are corrupted?
Well, the corruption that's there in the previous books has already been identified by previous prophets, and like even for example, Jesus does that in a very subtle manner, and also Jeremiah does that. Okay, but the Quran gives.
How are Jews and Christians at the time of Muhammad supposed to know that those are the same parts that are corrupted?
Yeah, when the Quran comes with authority, I mean, even Mike alluded to here, the Muhammad alayhi is the Quran posits itself as a superseding scripture, you know, a kind of guardian scripture that guards the contents of what are authentic and what aren't authentic, right? So from that point of view, the Quran is clarifying what really went wrong in the previous scriptures.
But the Quran is the Quran's argument, right, for why those claims about it being the Muhammad and the authority, or whatever you want to say, is true. The argument is in virtue of the Torah and the gospel. It's saying, hey, guys, go to this text over here. This vindicates my claim of my authority and my prophethood and all this other stuff.
A very simple analogy I can give you is from Jesus' own period. Okay, Jesus said to the Jewish people, "Not until now that you are sinful that I've come and spoken to you." So the teachings that Jesus was speaking,
he never told the Jews and Christians their scriptures are corrupted and to vindicate.
No, that's a different point. The point being to prove that Jesus was from God, sent from God. All that he said to the Jewish people is this: you were not guilty up until now that I'm coming and speaking to you. Now you're guilty since you have heard my teachings, my words. So the words that come from God are a definitive proof.
The symmetry breaker. No, the symmetry breaker here is Jesus is not telling the Jews at his time the Old Testament is corrupted, the Torah is corrupted. He actually affirms their scriptures and then typologically fulfills Israel's history. On your theory, there are corrupted scriptures. The Jews and Christians are supposed to find descriptions of Muhammad in their scriptures and be able to establish prophetic continuity with Muhammad. But that's like epistemically impossible without a way to figure out what parts of the scriptures are corrupt and what parts of their scriptures are not.
No, it doesn't even apply, actually. It's a non sequitur that you're trying to allude to here. When the Quran talks about corruption, it does talk about corruption. It identifies what the corruption is. Apart from that, the Quran says you will find descriptions in the earlier scriptures. And that means those indicative passages in the gospel and in the Torah are not corrupt. You can go and refer to them and sort of
No.
trace out who the prophet
Okay.
is.
That is a circular argument. You're basically saying, hey, the parts of the Bible that are not corrupted are the parts of the Bible that agree with the Quran, and the parts of the Bible that are corrupted at the time of Muhammad are the parts that don't agree with the Quran. Right?
No, I didn't necessarily say that. What I'm saying is, when the Quran talks about, you will find descriptions of Prophet Muhammad in the Gospel and in the Torah, it's not talking about corruption here. It's just telling you to go and find those descriptions. And we do have what we call as
well, let's pause there.
prophecies in the Old
How is a
Testament.
Jew or a Christian at the time of Muhammad supposed to know that that part of their scripture that they found a description of Muhammad in is corrupted or not corrupted?
Well, they could have had that argument with that sort of a discussion with Muhammad. They could have said, "How do we know this particular prophecy in Deuteronomy is not corrupt?" They could have had that discussion. They had the time. They had the
and then
opportunity
what
to
would have
have
been
that
the way
discussion
to
with Muhammad.
establish whether or not that was corrupted? Just merely having a discussion is not going to be enough, right? Like there has to be like.
I mean, if there was a discussion, then there would be further revelation in that area of concern.
Okay, further revelation from who?
From Almighty God.
So, in other words, the Quran or Muhammad would have to reveal more things, but then that's the same thing that's under dispute, right?
Yeah, if
the
there is a
Quran's
dispute,
argument, though. So
if there is a
okay,
dispute,
as an analogy, right?
Yeah.
And I've used this with other people. And there's a new prophet. His name is Sahil, and he has a holy text called the Diary, and it says, "Oh, people of the Quran, judge by people of the Diary, judge by the Quran whether or not Sahil is a true prophet. Sahil's in continuity with the previous prophets, and you can find descriptions in the Quran of Sahil. Also, the Quran is corrupted." And then they show you places in the Quran where you can actually see descriptions of Sahil, and this is the proof. You judge by and then the parts that are true are the parts that agree with the Diary, and the parts that don't agree with the Diary are the parts that are corrupted from the Quran. Are you going to believe that? Is that a good argument?
No, again, you're formulating it in an incorrect way. You just agreed with me that those judgment, at least for time being, you agreed with me for those verses relate to legislative judgments.
No, I didn't. I said I can grant that for a moment.
Yeah,
because there's other places in the Quran that clearly are not bound to legality.
No, it doesn't tell you to judge.
You cannot escape the claim of theological continuity in prophetic.
I don't think anywhere in the Quran does say to you, grant you the dictate to judge, to make those scriptures as judge. So that 543 onwards is the only passage where judgment is required.
So what are Christians and Jews supposed to do about? If you're going to say that, then Muhammad in the Bible is just pointless. And there is no way to vindicate prophetic continuity, that Muhammad's the next prophet or anything. If you're only using the previous scriptures to judge legal proceedings and has nothing to do with theology, then say goodbye to Muhammad being a next prophet in line with the previous prophets, him having theological continuity, him being descriptions of him being found, all that stuff.
No, because the assumption of the Quran is theologic. When it comes to doctrine and theology, the Old Testament, the Torah, and the Gospel, they are accurate. So you might have a difference of how you understand these things, but in the Torah, it's very clear. Moses gave the Shema. He said, "Our God is one," and Jesus comes along a millennium later and gives you the same Shema. He says, "Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad." So the same Shema that Moses gave, Jesus reiterates it after a millennium, and 600 years later, Muhammad says the same thing.
Yeah, I understand. I know the Shema objection. Do you know what the Shema is doing?
What? Come on.
Do you think the Shema is like claiming Tawheed or what?
No, there is no Tawheed in the Shema.
Great.
Right.
So what is the point of bringing up the Shema?
The Shema just establishes that God is
there's
one.
one God.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Mike looks like he's done. So
yeah, I appreciate you coming, man, but you're not answering Than's argument here, showing there's no non-circular way for the Muhammad to verify his prophethood in his day. That's the problem. You can't show that, there's no conversation here, and there's no reason to trust Muhammad because he's just using circular arguments.
Yeah, I mean, can I discuss why Islam could be true because of the scientific layer that comes in the Quran?
No, because because here's the thing: the argument that the Quran makes about Muhammad's prophethood entails that it's epistemically. If you think that the scriptures at the time of Muhammad are corrupted, that entails that it was impossible to verify Muhammad's prophetic continuity and his like prophecies about him and all that stuff at the time of Muhammad. If that's true, then Islam is false.
The same would apply to Christ, because Jeremiah, who precedes the prophet,
it's not.
Does the same thing.
It's not.
No,
the structure of argumentation is vastly different, because nowhere do we say that the previous scriptures are corrupted and that the gospel is confirming but also correcting and all this other stuff of the Old Testament.
Then Jesus also does that in a subtle way, though.
No, he doesn't correct the previous scriptures. He corrects the interpretations and application of the law to the Pharisees in the Second Temple period.
Well, it's subtle, but I can demonstrate that to you.
It's subtle.
Yeah. Because
have a good day, man. I'm done. Ex-Muslim Robert, if you're ex-Muslim, why are you here, man? What's going on? Did he just fall over or something? Hello?
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yeah, are you you're ex-Muslim?
Left in 89.
Excellent. Great to hear. But this is a call only for Muslims, though, man. You've been here for a while.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'll head out. Talk some other time. See ya.
All right. Let's end this with super chats here. Man, I just like we have these conversations, and sometimes they go well, but every now and then it's like, dang, there's so much of this. It's just like we have to keep explaining ourselves over and over again. Following my last super chat, Isaiah 13, 15 to 17, I will stir up against them the increment God of the earlier verses, and how do we differentiate between God doing and allowing in verses like this? If you go look in places like Exodus 5, for example, as well as 1 Chronicles 10, I believe it is, or 11, God takes credit for things he only allows. So let me show you what I mean. Yeah, 1 Chronicles 10. This is the death of Saul. So Saul commits suicide, and then it says at the end, the Lord put him to death. But that didn't actually happen. He just committed suicide, did he not? So oftentimes God takes credit for things he only passively allows. So it's hard, because that was a common thing in that culture. So you got to keep that in mind. So him just sometimes actively saying he's going to stir it up, it could also just mean he's just allowing it to happen. I brought up ancient literature, carvings, and other stuff, and he kept saying that isn't archaeology and can't prove resurrection, even though I brought up things like Shroud of Turin. He said it was debunked. I don't know what to tell you, man. It sounds like he was just not being honest. If that's the case, you just got to move on. Nothing you can do about it. Have you looked into the Islamic problem of evil? It's pretty interesting stuff. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just breathing.
Yeah. Oh. I've not. That'd be interesting. I'll take a look at it. Yeah.
From what I've seen, I don't really understand how they deal with it. Most of the time, they just kind of like, and this might be my ignorance showing, but most of the time they just kind of are like, yeah, Allah does this. And that's it.
Pretty much it, yeah. I don't know. Thank you for your jizya. We much appreciated it. Legal Conflicts 2, Surah 2, 230 to Deuteronomy 24. Let me look that up really quick. So Surah 2, 230. Yeah, I know. I mean, like, they're going to... it'd be kind of weird. He's saying that we should use, but I mean, the legal aspects. I'm like, okay, well, that's going to lead to direct contradictions if we should use them. Husband divorces his wife 3 times and it's not lawful for him to remarry her until she has married another man and then is divorced. Then it is permissible. Yeah, that would be a contradictory legal ruling, what we see in the Quran. You might be able to get around that by saying, well, these are different rulings for the Muslims and the Jews. It's a lot harder when you go to the legal rulings of the gospel about how we should believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus. As you saw, he can't get around that. Can't do anything about that. Thank you, Matt. How can people support IP? Well, you can go to inspiringphilosophy.com/give and donate there. That would be very, very helpful right now, considering you lost a couple big donors recently. So if anybody can go there and help us donate that way, that'd be very, very appreciative. So if you guys want to consider that, we would definitely need it. Appreciate it. What do you want to say, Than?
I'm tired, boss.
He's tired, man. He's tired, guys. I'm tired too. Flying on a plane all morning.
I had one of those nights where my kid woke me up at 1 a.m. for water, and I just could not fall back asleep.
No, I hate when that happens. Were you convinced at all that Islam is true?
No.
Yeah, me. The evidence they give is something. I don't even know. I don't even know, man. It's bad. Like, can we? Like, So let me see what's going. Let me see if this is. Hold on. Hang on. I'm gonna check something really fast here before we close this out. All right. I was gonna see if I was going to see if Nick was live, and I was going to send everybody there, but he's not live right now, so never mind. Sorry, Nick. You're not live right now, so I can't help you. But anyway, well, that's all I got. No evidence Islam is true. The only thing they got is to say, well, the Quran knew things happened in the past. That's their best case, then. He knew things that happened in the past. In a statistically insignificant way.
I was trying to find something about that as you guys were talking, because I'm like, there's got to be something I'm missing. There's no way they're calling this a miracle.
They are.
Is this an argument they run?
That's one of their go-to arguments. Heard it 1,000 times. Yep.
Okay.
By the way, the odds of you flipping a coin 6 times and getting 6 things in a row, 70%. If you flip a coin, 73 times, the odds of you getting 6 heads or tails in a row, 70%, roughly. That's their miracle. I'm pretty sure the p-value was well above 0.1, let alone below 0.05 at that point.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll go back and re-listen to it.
I like to see you argue that Muhammad is in the Bible. Matthew 24:11, he says many false prophets will arise. Yeah, we always point that out. That's where he's in the Bible right there. Very obviously. All right. Thank you guys for coming. We will talk to you guys later, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.
You made it to the end of this video, which means this message matters to you. If you want to see more content like this reaching people for Christ, you can help make it happen. Your support makes these videos possible. Click the link below and donate today. And if you want to go even deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes content, and a place to connect with others passionate about this mission.